do you think? Is that too bright? It's a little too red, right? Hang on. Let me see if I can fix it. Color. Oh yeah, I can tone it down a bit. Yeah, let's go for a maroon look. I like that better. Welcome if you're new here. I am an old guy who is white, but I identify as black. I'm an atheist. I lean right. I call myself conservative, but that means different things to different people. Who cares? But I got some interesting questions, quiz type questions. Like, everybody loves quizzes, right? Let's see how smart you guys are today. And then I have a hypothetical question. So let's start with the hypothetical question. I think it's a really, really good hypothetical question. Start a poll. Let's see here. Something like this. Okay. Effects, filters, sharpen, unsharpen a bit. That's good enough. Create poll. So what's the question? What's the hypothetical question? Okay, for my desk is too cluttered. Hang on. For Democrats, let's say lefties. If Trump's indictment led to him becoming president, 100% certainty, would you... Oh, I'm over. Democrats, lefties, if Trump's indictment led him to becoming president, I'll get rid of the word certainty. That's redundant with 100%. 100% chance. In other words, no chance of being wrong. Would you support it? Oh, look at that. 100 characters on the button. This is professional. Like, a lot of people can't do that. But since I'm a professional YouTuber, I can do it. If Trump's indictment led to him becoming president, would you support it? Yes, no. I don't have to. Yeah, okay, ask your community. This is for Democrats only, lefties only. If you're a Republican, get out of here. And we're going to let that run for a while. Streaming at the same time as DG. Who's DG? Oh, Digital Gnosis. Yeah. Gotta give... I mean, I feel sorry for the younglings. I sometimes think that Democrats sound stupider or more crazy than Republicans. And don't get me wrong, Republicans can sound crazy. There's crazy people on both sides of the fence. If you don't agree with that, I think you're unreasonable. But it seems like I find more craziness on the left than the right, even high up when watching C-SPAN. So I'm going to give you an example here. I'm going to give you an example of what I mean, and feel free to give me examples in the comments later of examples of something similar to this. But you know how on my main channel, when I talk to theists and I ask them questions and they don't answer it? You've seen that, right? I find that Democrats do that more than Republicans. And here's an example. Let me bring this up.
Level. In your experience, is there a difference between women and men?
Of course. I think we learned this at a very young age, watching even 12 and unders play. Going through puberty causes...
No, she's not a Democrat. This is not what I'm going for. But listen to her answer. The question is there a difference between men and women? Answer from the Republican lady here. I think she's Republican. Yes.
Reversible advantage that no matter the training, no matter the diet, no matter any alterable change you can make, will overcome that male advantage, especially in sports like swimming where lung capacity matters so much. Even something as silly as throat size, men have on average a 40% larger throat, which sounds like it's nothing, but
Oh, that's why the gays exist. Sorry. That was a horrible joke. Myron, can you edit that out in post? Yeah, just take that right out.
when you're grasping for air, that 40% larger throat makes a huge difference in athletic success, not to mention height. You guys know the differences.
Ms. Robinson, do you agree with Ms. Gaines that there's a difference between women and men?
If the question is about trans women,
I'm just asking, is there a difference between women and men?
what I can say here is that the NCAA has rules in place. They've had rules in place for the last decade, and when this competition
Okay, I'm
happened,
going to try again.
the rules were clear.
Do you believe there's a difference between women and men? It's a yes/no question. Do you believe there's a difference?
Oh, I think that we're talking about this case with the NCAA.
No, I'm asking a question. Do you believe there's a difference between women and men? Most people could answer this very simply.
Yes.
I'm curious if you're willing to do so.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just putting it into the context of the
Is that a yes?
conversation that we're having. I think that there are definitions related to sex.
Is
but
that
I
a
also
yes?
think
So I'm
that when
trying to
we're-
get a yes or no. I'm not trying to get a speech.
I'm
Is there a difference between women and men?
I think that there are definitions for biological sex.
Okay, so you're
which
not
is
answering
different
that.
than
Let me ask
gender.
you this question then. Why do women's sports exist?
Now, I mean, I don't think you can defend this even if you're a woke lefty. I say that with love, because you have to answer yes to that question if you support transgender people. Because why transition? Why identify as a man or a woman if there's no difference between the two? This is why I think you will find less of this type of stuff with Republicans than Democrats, because Democrats, I think, care about people's feelings more. I really do. Democrats care about people's feelings more than Republicans. And that leads them to do this type of nonsense, where they just can't answer a question, because if they do, it makes that support wane in their mind. I don't know what's going on. It's this neediness to love people, to be loved, this neediness to support. This is the same type of neediness that I detest coming from Christians, Muslims, theists in general. This is why I call wokeness a religion.
If you can't define a difference between women and...
He never let her answer the question, says Guy Montag. I mean, that's just a... You know what, Guy Montag? You could be right. He never let her answer the question. Let's listen to it again, shall we?
Difference between women and men?
If the question is about trans women,
I'm just asking, is there a difference between women and men?
what I can say here is that the NCAA has rules in place. They've had rules in place for the last decade, and when this competition
Okay, I'm
happened,
going to try
the
again.
rules were clear.
Do you believe there's a difference between women and men? It's a yes/no question. Do you believe there's a difference?
Oh, I think that we're talking about this case with the NCAA.
No, I'm asking a question. Do you believe there's a difference between women and men? Most people could answer this very simply. I'm curious if you're willing to do so.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just putting it into the
No, she's not if Ted Cruz ever watches this, which is 0.0001% chance, I would suggest to Ted Cruz you'd say lean yes, lean no, because she doesn't want to answer this question as a yes or no. But what I'm saying is, even if I put myself into her shoes and her mindset, she ought to answer yes. There's a difference in men and women, even for her side. Because by not doing so, the whole transgender movement just crumbles. There's no need to transition, no need to identify as a man if you were born a woman, because there's no difference between the two. So who cares? You have to have some type of standard of differences between the two in order to say that I'm not this and I'm that. This is... I'm perplexed of the stupidity sometimes in people.
context of the
Is that a yes?
conversation that we're having. I think that there are definitions related to sex.
Is
but
that
I
a
also
yes?
think
So I'm
that when
trying to
we're-
get a yes or no. I'm not trying to get a speech. Is there a difference between women and men?
See, and this is also similar to my other channel. When I ask apologists questions, lean yes, lean no, and they want to talk about the context, the nuance. They don't want to give a straight answer. They want to be like lefty politicians or activists. So my advice to people who lean left, who are self-avowed Democrats or whatever, give answers at the risk of making other people cry. Do it. If your answer is going to make someone cry, so be it. Everybody needs a good cry once in a while.
I think that there are definitions for biological sex.
Okay, so you're
which
not
is
answering
different
that.
than
Let me ask
gender.
you this question then. Why do women's sports exist? If you can't define a difference between women and men, why not abolish women's sports and just tell little girls to swim with little boys and see who wins?
Thank you, Abdul.
Oh, I'm simply saying that that sex
My
is different
question,
than gender.
why
and I do
do-
believe
why
that
do
women's
women's
sports
sports
have a great
exist?
value. I mean, Senator, I'll tell you right
Ms.
now.
Robinson, please answer the question I'm asking you.
Absolutely.
See, she's trying to talk about the differences between sex and gender, but it's totally irrelevant to the question, are men and women different? She has to answer yes if she supports transgender people. But she doesn't realize it.
Why do women's sports exist?
I think that there are so many positive benefits to sports.
But
I mean,
why have a
we've talked
separate
about it here
category for
today.
women? If there's no difference between women and men,
See, and she can't answer this question either. Again, I'm begging Democrats to give me examples of something similar that Republicans. I'm sure. I guarantee you, it's out there. I need to see more of it. Okay, to keep myself balanced, to keep myself unbiased. But don't try to find it on TikTok because you'll just see nothing but crazy people there. I mean, crazy people from the left there because they're all young. Not all, most.
and why to have women's sports?
I'm saying that there's a difference between sex and gender, and that the NCAA has rules in place, which they have for the
So,
last decade.
Mr. Chairman,
which
I
determine
would
that
like to enter into
related
the
to
record an
participation.
article from Duke Law called Comparing Athletic Performances for the Best Elite Women to Boys and Men.
Yeah, and then he gives stats that I gave the other day that there's boys, 17, 18-year-old, well, high school boys who can beat grown Olympiad type women, professional women in sports. And but it's all about feel sorry forism that, well, women feel bad if you say boys can beat them, or, I mean, you just can't say these things out loud. If you're a woman and you can't acknowledge that men are superior to you in physicality, that's a you problem. That's you denying reality. That's you probably not having good parents who loved you enough. Can I get an amen? How's the poll doing? Oh, this is interesting. Only 23 votes yet. I'm going to keep this going. But the question is, for Democrats or people who lean left, if Trump's indictment led him to becoming president, 100% guaranteed. If you indict, he becomes president. If you don't indict, he won't. Would you still support an indictment? That's the question. And it's 57% yes, 43% no. You know what? This is encouraging. But I want you to vote honestly. Because one could make a greater good argument if you're a Democrat. So it's a complicated question. So really think about it. Okay, let's. I wanted to go through with the indictment. Not so much my take about it, but what the United States' take on it. And this is from a polling source from Harvard. That's very recent. I think it's only 2 weeks old. Yeah, I think it's 2 weeks old. Let's see here. Can I? And I think the country has similar views to me on this. So let's look at some of the questions here. Most voters say that the case against Trump is strong. Have you heard or not heard? 81% has heard about it. 19% haven't. Do you think they have a strong case? 32% strong case. Let me make this clear. 26% somewhat strong. So what is that? 58% total. Oh yeah, they do it for me. Okay. Now by political party, only 30% think there's a strong case of GOP, 85% Dems, independents. This is one that matters because they're independent. Independents determine elections, by the way, in case you didn't know that. So 60% independents think there's a strong case. Okay, what's the next page here? While a plurality of voters say that Trump is probably guilty of his recent charges, a majority would not have indicted him. Voters split heavily along political lines. So look at this. 44% say he's probably guilty of the charges and should be convicted. So less than half the country think he should be convicted even if he's guilty, if he's probably guilty. 30% say he's probably innocent of the charges and should be acquitted. And 26% say he may be guilty of the charges but should not have been indicted because it's too political and it interferes with the 2024 election. Let's look at the independents. 45% probably guilty and should be convicted, which is still a minority. 29% he's probably innocent. 26% he may be guilty and should not be indicted because it's too political. Do you think the Secretary of State Hillary Clinton mishandled classified information with her emails or did not mishandle classified information? Look at this. This is one about consistency. Sorry about that. Oh, it's hard to fit everything in. 72% say that Hillary Clinton mishandled classified information. And 69% believe that she obstructed justice by destroying her emails. Let's look at the independents. 76%, even more of the independents think, compared to the average, that she mishandled. And 69% same, obstructed. How about Joe Biden? Do you think Joe Biden mishandled classified information? Now, for those of you listening right now, this is not about truth. This is not about whether or not it's true or not. This is about perceptions of the United States public. 65% think that Joe Biden mishandled classified information. Independents, 66%. Do you think indicting a former president for taking classified documents after leaving office is something done by Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, and other senior officials is a fair application of justice or a selective prosecution? That's a mouthful. 53% says it's selective prosecution. So think of it as a witch hunt type thing. 47% no, it's fair justice. So over half the country think this is not fair justice going on. That's more like a witch hunt. The way I'll give my 2 cents here. I think Trump did something wrong. I'll leave it as nebulous and general as that. But I would say that it's like going 55 miles an hour in a 50 mile an hour speed limit zone and being pulled over and ticketed. Yes, it's a violation of the law. Is it that serious? No. Oh, I can just hear some people on the left screaming at the top of their lungs. What do you mean this is not that serious? Let's see here. Did I skip a slide? A majority say Trump's indictment is politically motivated and interference by the DOJ in the 2024 election. 55% say that. So the majority of the country think this is political. Again, this is not about truth. This is about perception of the American public. We'll let the course of law take place, and we'll see what happens. I don't know how long it's going to take. Do you consider this federal indictment to be an interference by the Department of Justice in 2024 elections, or is it fair application of law? 56% of the United States public think this is interference by the DOJ. Okay, let's look at the independents. 45% say it's invalid. 55% say it's politically motivated. So the independents even are higher than the average general population. Remember, it's independents that control this country. You think it's Republicans, you think it's Democrats, you're wrong. It's independents. What swings elections. And independents, 49% say it's a fair application. Oh, so they're a little closer here. They're pretty divided. By the way, I looked at the methodology a little bit here, and they weighted averaged this poll, these results. So take that with a grain of salt. This is not direct data. This is coming from Harvard. Harvard is in a blue state. You got to admit, I'm talking truth now, right? It's a blue state. It's fair to say that most people who were involved in this, making this survey and publishing it, lean left. So my guess is if they did a weighted average to, let's say, what is it? 63% of the United States are check the white box. If, let's say, they did this poll, it was an online poll of thousands of people. If it was 70% white respondents, that means they take what they say and they weight it downwards. They give it less weight. And let's say, what is 15% of the United States is African American or black? Black, not African American, black. And if only 10% in the poll, then they take whatever they say and they make it more important to increase it. So that's how they did this poll. I'll put the link in the description later so you can see for yourself. Voters are evenly split on whether Donald Trump should stay in the race and if his indictment will help or hurt him. Do you think Trump's new federal indictment is a reason for him to withdraw, or should he keep on running? 51% say it's reason to withdraw. Okay, the independents are completely split on it, 50-50. Do you think the federal indictment of former President Trump will help him or hurt him? 50-50 split. Independents say 54%. Okay, I think this is, the first time I really disagree with this poll. I think it's going to help him, and here's why. Let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, let me see. Make this bigger. This is June. This is fresh. This is from a left-leaning organization called MSNBC. No, hang on. News poll. Yeah, I think it is from NBC. Maybe just NBC. I don't know. In April, among primary voters at least, Trump was at 46%, Republican primary voters, and he's jumped to 51. So at least my argument that this would help him is that it's going to energize the Republican base. He's going to, it's going to be a spite vote. Oh yeah, you're going to do this to our grand leader? Well, just you wait. And if enough independents think that this is a type of just politically motivated, and as we saw in the polls earlier, that they feel that Hillary and Biden have done something similar, and this is just because people cry when they think of Trump, then they also might say, no, not voting for the Democrat candidate. By the way, if you see MSNBC start talking badly about Biden over the next 12 months, that means the people who run the Democratic Party do not want Biden to run. You have to wait for MSNBC to start saying negative things about Biden. As soon as you see that, oh, I'm halfway off the picture here. As soon as you see that, you know that, okay, it's over for Biden. So watch MSNBC. Okay, back to the data. "57% of voters think Donald Trump will be acquitted." Wow. Should he withdraw? 50-50. Oh, the pardon question is a great one. Very interesting. If Donald Trump were convicted and sentenced to jail for his handling of classified documents, would you support or oppose a president pardoning him in the interest of national unity? 53% support a pardon. And then the question is, can Trump, if he wins, can he pardon himself? I think he can. I honestly do. I read it today, what it said in the Constitution. Let's put it this way. There's nothing in the Constitution that clearly says he can't. So Trump could be found guilty. He could actually even go to jail, and from within his cell, if he wins the presidency, can pardon himself and say, let me out. Isn't that funny? Yeah, I find that hilarious. Voters want more transparency from the FBI and DOJ, 83%. Oh, this is about the $5 million bribe that President Biden allegedly took, he and his son. Did you hear about that? Or were you guys thinking about the submarine during that time? I saw someone on TikTok say a conspiracy theory. You know, have you guys seen any footage of those people in the sub going into the sub? That little sub, whatever you call it? I haven't. Have you? Like when people are about to go on this major voyage into the depths of the ocean, you usually film everything. You film getting in, but I don't remember seeing anybody going. That was one of the conspiracy theories that I saw. 55% of voters say the FBI is not sufficiently investigating corruption allegations against Joe Biden. What about the independents? Oh, the independents are at 59%. That doesn't bode well for Biden. Do you think that Joe Biden has, as he has said, never discussed with his son Hunter Biden's business with him? Or do you think that's untrue and he has? But basically, blue is Biden has never discussed, and red, so he's telling the truth. Red is he's lying. No, I shouldn't say lying. Well, but it's kind of the way the question's worded. He's telling an untruth. Independents are even higher at 68% over here. The majority of voters believe Joe Biden took a $5 million bribe when he was vice president. 57% says yes, he took a bribe. 43%. What did the independents think? 57%, same, took a bribe. Electric vehicles, who cares about them? Gender education. Satisfied. Most parents say schools should respect the parental rights, but overwhelmingly want sex education for children under 10 left to the parents. Oh, oopsies. How dare the parents want to teach about sex to kids under 10? They're not teachers. They're ignorant, stupid parents. Like, don't they realize that they're not qualified? Leave it to the professionals. Sarcasm. Hashtag sarcasm. Self-declaring one's gender is not a teachable subject, most voters say. 70%. Okay. I've said this before. I'll say it again. The transgender movement, I'm just saying the word movement gives people heart attacks. But they're losing. You're losing. If you're listening and you support the transgender movement, you're losing. You're losing bad. So you need to change something. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. 4 in 5 voters say that gender-related drugs and surgery should only be available to minors with parental approval. So now the question is, does that one parent or two? Because there's a case in Canada, I believe, it's in my brain, of the mother saying, yes, let's do surgery. I think it was, surgery. But the dad said no, they were divorced. And they basically said, shut up, dad, and went with the mom. In my opinion, if you're going to do surgery for minors, both parents have to say yes. I think that's very reasonable. The surgery, food delivery. Who cares about food delivery? Okay. Most say Biden should not run for a second term. Same for Trump. 62%. 31% say he should run, 69% not. So even independents, even more so. Biden should not run. But 55% say Trump shouldn't run either. I think most of the country's happy with that if both of them don't run. Okay. Enough polling data. Oh, by the way, if someone wants to call in, tag me in the live stream. I've been ignoring the live stream, reading these things. But if you want to talk to me, tag me. Oh, it's shifted. Hang on. And we're at 50 votes. Thank you, Democrats. Please know, Democrats, that you're loved. You're loved. You're important. I'm trying to speak the language of people on the left. You are whoever you think you are. I'm just kidding. Come on, laugh. See, that's another problem. I mean, Democrats don't have a sense of humor. No, you're laughing, right, Democrats? If Trump's indictment led him to becoming president, 100% certain, would you support it? Yes, 44%. No, 56%. See, this is what I was expecting. When we were at 26 votes, it was barely yes. But let me chastise you now. For the Democrats who answered no, you're basically admitting that this is about politics and not about the law. Because you're saying, I hate Trump so much that I rather let the indictment go than him being president. I rather him break the law and get away with it than him being president. You realize you're saying this if you vote no, right? Can I get an amen from the Democrats who voted yes? Shame on you, you know people. Let's see if there was anything else I wanted to go through. I did that. Oh, I promised a quiz. Oh, yeah, I have great news. I have great news. There was only 882 COVID deaths this month. Well, the month's not over, so let's round up. 900. There were only 900 COVID deaths this month. Isn't that great? It's the lowest it's been since March, April of 20. No, April was pretty bad. February, March of 2020. But months prior to that, there was like 4,000, 5,000 a month, sometimes 6,000. So now I think President Biden can actually go stand in front of a camera with a teleprompter and read very carefully, the pandemic is now over. He did that about a year ago, right? But and a lot of Democrats were mad at him for doing that because, no, you can't say that. There's still thousands of people dying a month. Of what percentage of people under 30 have died from COVID since it started? Put your guess in. So since, let's say, February 2020 to now, what percentage of all the deaths were people under 30? Put your guess in the live stream chat now, and I'll tell you the exact answer because I got the data. While you're guessing, I'll do some quick calculations. Let's take that plus that plus that plus that divided by, are you guys guessing? What percentage of everybody who's died since February 2020 in the United States, what percentage of those deaths were people under 30? What's your guess? Winner gets 1,000, I was going to say pine points, but they don't exist anymore. They've been taken off the market. Ooh. I just figured out the answer for myself. Okay. Under 30. I'm just going to double check my math. Oh. Yeah, that's right. Or is it right? No, that's not right. Gotta take that, plus that, plus that, plus that. Winner gets, what does the winner get? My love. Winner gets my love. That's valuable. That plus that. It's a lot of data here. Okay, let me look at the guesses. I should go live chat. Did I get vaccinated? I did, but I regret it. I regret it. I regret it. I regret it. If I could do it over again, I would never have gotten vaccinated. And if you want to know why, you can come on and ask me. Well, Flamio says 1%. No Faith Required said 30%, 2%, 3%, 1%, 19.3%, 15%. You guys are all over the map. The correct answer is, drum roll, 0.7%. 0.7%. Under 30. If we go under 20, it's way below that. Okay, now here's another question for you, because I promised a quiz. Roughly, how many people who got vaccinated had to go to the hospital due to a complication, like an allergic reaction, but it was so bad they had to go to the hospital, or something like that? So the way I want you to answer that question is like, well, you can do it in terms of percentages. Yeah, do it in terms of percentages. That's the easiest way. Or you can do it in terms of 1 in a million, 1 in 100,000. What's your guess? What percentage of people had to go to the hospital because they got vaccinated? It was so serious that they had to go to the hospital. We got 3%, 2%. Whoa, that's... Oh, I shouldn't bias. Maybe I already did. What percentage of people who, after they got the vaccine, had to go to the hospital? And probably mainly for some type of major allergic reaction. But there's other things like, what do you call it? Bubble in the veins or something. Whistler says all of them. And I think I know the right answer. My confidence level is pretty high, like 90%. I can provide evidence for it later. Actually, I've already provided evidence. If you watched previous live streams, you should know the answer. Sasha says 20%? Oh man, Sasha, I'm going to rain a fire upon you. And Mel. The correct answer is roughly 0.1%. 0.1. Not 1%, 0.1. The chances of you going to... Okay, I'm gonna set you guys up. This is not a trap question. This is a trap comment. Oh, I haven't done those before. This is a trap comment. The chances of you going to the hospital from being vaccinated is so low. It's only 0.1%. It's 1 in 1,000. Now, the reason why this is a trap comment is because now I'm going to ask you this. What is the chances of getting COVID and going to the hospital? What are the chances of getting COVID and going to the hospital? Put your guess in the live stream chat. Right, Magnus, you're right. 0.1% is still a lot. But if 0.1%, if 1 in 1,000 people go to the hospital because of some complication from the vaccine, what percentage of the population actually went to the hospital in the United States because they got COVID? They get COVID and they have to go to the hospital for it. Now, if you're a thinking human being, you're going to say, well, it depends on what age you are, Doug. You would be correct, but I'm saying overall. The answer is 0.02%. Roughly 1 in 5,000. Do you understand what just happened? If you're bad at math, you didn't understand what just happened. If you're good at math, something just clicked in your brain. And if you're good at math, what clicked in your brain is, you said, well, wait a minute, Doug. If what you said is true, if 1 in 1,000 go to the hospital from the vaccine and only 1 in 5,000 go to the hospital for getting COVID, then more people are going to the hospital for getting the vaccine than getting COVID. If that's what you're thinking, good for you. You figured it out. This is why getting a vaccine for people under 65 was a mistake. This is why people getting a vaccine under the age of 65 is a mistake. Because of a couple of statistics. Number one, only 0.7% of people under 30 died from COVID. And a lot of those people had complications. like pre-existing conditions, or were very obese. But the vast majority of the deaths were for people over 65. Those people, when they got COVID, it was under 1 in 1,000 chance, more than 1 in 1,000 chance that they would go to the hospital. So in those cases, the vaccine, the reward was bigger than the risk. For everybody else, the risk was greater than the reward. And if you want to see the numbers, I'll put the link in the description later because I talked about this already, and I had all the data. The data comes from a UK study. They actually calculated what percentage, how many people in, let's say 10,000, whatever, at different age groups had to go to the hospital from getting the vaccine, how many people had to go to the hospital due to COVID. So basically, you got a great bang for your buck. Not a great, but a good bang for your buck from the vaccine if you're over 65, definitely over 75. But once you're like talking 10-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, no, it's stupid to get the vaccine. The risks outweigh the rewards. There's some exceptions, but I'm talking about on average here. You definitely don't want to mandate it. For people, let's say in their 50s, 60s, it's gray, might be close, but definitely over 65. Yeah, I will link it in the description. Now, if what I said is true about 0.7% of young people dying, very low. Still, well, I should say, it's low compared to the 88% of people over 65 dying from it. And if what I said about 1 in 5,000 go to the hospital from COVID and 1 in 1,000 from the vaccine, if all that's true, it's simple math to look at the risk-reward benefit ratio. I think it's still a politically charged issue, but 10 years from now, when everything definitely wears off, people are going to look back on history and say, yeah, this was a mistake. To tell people you can't come to school unless you're vaccinated, or you can't go here unless you're vaccinated, or the demonization of people, unless you're vaccinated, you're going to, we're going to look back and say, these people were on the wrong side of history. I love that phrase because people on the left use that often. You're welcome. Why is COVID political? Well, no, COVID's not political. The whole vaccine thing I think is political. And the evidence for that was there were people who were very skeptical of the vaccine, who were Democrats when Trump was president, and then everything seemed to change when Biden became president. That skepticism sort of wore off. If that's not the definition of political, I don't know what is. You guys remember that? Okay. Do you want more quiz questions, or do you want me to bring in guests? You want to see how smart you are? I remember, do I do this? Yeah. I asked this the other day, but I'll ask it again as a setup. Way to be bipartisan. Who said I was bipartisan? I'm a nice right-winger. That's all. I'm not bipartisan. Well, it depends what you mean by bipartisan. I'm willing to compromise. I've said in the past that I'm willing to have the top tier tax rate go up to 70%. Yeah, you heard me. I'm a right winger who says I'm willing to go 70% on the top tier tax rate the way it was in the 60s on one condition. We roll back all social programs to where they were at in the 60s. Okay, now let's get some people in the live stream chat really mad with these questions. How many people in the United States died in 2019? I asked this question for 2022, but the data I have looking at right now is 2019. How many people in the United States died from murder? Sorry, murder. Died from murder in 2019. Put your guess in live stream chat. I think the correct answer is around 16,000. Oh, you missed the poll question, Floyd. Or maybe you didn't. Maybe you're catching up if you're not live. But we actually have data on victims and offenders for about half of those murders. I don't know why we don't have it for all of them. They only published for about 6,000 or 7,000 of them. Okay, but here's the quiz question. 100K was way off? Yeah, 100K is way, way off. Only about... It really jumped in 2020 and 2021, mostly 2021. I think we're at about 22,000 murders per year. But here's the next question. How many black people, what percent of the murders of black people were committed by white people? Guess in the live stream chat. Don't look it up. Don't Google. So roughly 16,000 people died in 2019. Some of those people were black in skin shade. What percentage of those black people who were murdered by white people? Put your guess in live stream chat. This is 2019 data. This is the most recent data the FBI has out. Wow, we got a smart group in here. Except for digital gnosis. He has an integer problem. The correct answer is 8.5%. %8.5%. What percentage of all the white people who were murdered in the United States were murdered by black people? You can't say this on any other channel but this one. This is where we're going now. This is where no man's gone before. What, out of all the white people who were murdered in 2019, what percentage of those white people murdered were murdered by black people? I'll tell you in a bit, Northwest Backcountry. Correct answer is 17.2. So a little more than double. So now, if you want to make an inference on racism, No, we can't do that, right? No, Doug, quiet. No, you can't make inferences like that. No. Okay, I won't. The question I asked earlier was, if the indictment of Trump led to his election with 100% certainty, Trump becomes president if indicted. If he's not indicted, he won't be president. That was the question. Would you still support the indictment? And I closed the poll at when we had, I don't know, I think it was over 60 people. And it was 56%, 58% said no, they would not indict. And the question was just for Democrats. In fact, you know what? I got the results right here. I can rewind. Let's see if I can do it here. Yeah, here it is. Oh, isn't technology a wonderful thing when you can go back to your own live stream, rewind? Yeah, it was 56%. And I thought of this hypothetical question today because for the Democrats or people who lean left who answered no, that they would not indict if that means Trump becomes president, this is pretty strong evidence that at least over half of the left-leaning people in this live stream chat, for you, this indictment is all about politics. It's not about the law. You would rather him get away with breaking the law just so he does not become president of the United States. And then I said, I know Floyd came here late and Nathan came here late, and then I said to the people who voted no, shame on you. Shame for shame for shame. And then they stuck their tail between their legs and they left. And for the people who voted yes, the left-leanings, I said, good for you. You're about law and order. That nobody's above the law. It's in our Constitution, for goodness sake. So the people who voted yes, you can be my friend. People voted no. We need to educate you. Isn't that how the lefties say it? We need to educate you. Okay, I gotta open up the room. I'm having too much fun. I'm gonna... Okay, don't be like the theists. You know, the theists, I always have trouble having theists calling in. Don't be like the theists, people who lean left. Don't be scared to call in. Oh, by the way, Destiny still hasn't gotten back to me. I think I'm in that spot where I'm too small to be cared about. But yet I'm too big for the average Joe to come in and feel comfortable. You know what I mean? Unless you're really brave. Okay, I pinned the whereby thing. But I'll be nice. We can fix you, Doug. It's starting to sound like a woman. I'm going to marry this guy, and when I'm done with him, he'll be the perfect husband. Men marry women hoping they never change. Women marry men hoping they will. But I'm not nice? I think I'm nice. I think once you get to know me, you find me quite a treat. I totally disagree with you, Floyd. In fact, I'm willing to bet real money, I'm talking real money, that if Trump's reelected, he'll definitely be out in 5 years. He will not be in the White House as president. I'd be very surprised if he starts any wars. I'd be very shocked if he killed any black people or brought back slavery. What else are the things people on the left scared about Trump? He's going to bring slavery back. He's going to bring back fascism and Nazism and no, I'm not scared a bit. I think for a lot of people, Trump is like this ghost in the closet that doesn't exist. You don't think he'll use the Justice Department to go after his rivals? Oh, well, because it happened to him? I don't know. Hey, Sean.
Hello.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right.
Oh, I remember you. You're my Irish buddy friend.
Yeah,
No, we're not friends, but I know you.
yeah. I'm the only one dumb enough to call in. So
Thank you. That's good. That's good.
I was thinking, like, if Donald Trump wins, what? I mean, you believe in climate change. Why would you vote for Donald Trump?
What do you mean?
Why would you, if Donald Trump doesn't believe in climate change, would you still vote for him?
He has. Did he say he doesn't believe in climate change?
I don't know, but he said he doesn't like solar windmills, understandably, but still.
Can you be? Can a person say they believe the climate's changing and at the same time be against windmills? Or is that
Yes.
foreign to you?
No, it's fine, but he did get out of the Paris Agreement there.
Yes, he's against the Green Deal, the Paris Agreement, all that. But that doesn't mean he doesn't think the climate's changing.
I think he's changed his mind a bit on climate change, but still.
Yeah. No, I agree with him on that. I think I see CO2 as plant food.
So you think that he won't do much about climate change when he's elected?
No, he won't. And I'm okay
Yeah,
with
well,
that.
I would be very pro climate change solutions. Like, I would be like
May I ask why?
more extreme than Biden,
Why is that a big issue for you?
because I think it's probably one of the top
But why is
two
it
to
why is
three
it
problems in the human race.
but why is it the top 2 or 3 for you? Articulate
Because
yourself.
I'm smarter than the average person.
No, come on.
No, it's probably
What is
well,
the
because I researched it for the crack, and if it's true, then
if it's true?
I used to be a conspiracy theorist, and then I got rid of that, all that Alex Jones stuff.
Can you answer the
No, it's
question?
not,
Why is climate change such a huge issue for you? There's
because
no
it's
right
like
or
the
wrong
biggest
answer. Just
conspiracy theory out there. So if it's true, it's the biggest conspiracy theory ever, and people are not doing anything about it because they don't want to deal about it.
okay,
Because if we
if
want to
nobody
deal,
does anything about climate change, what's the problem?
well,
I'm trying to help
a
you
lot
get to
of
the
humans-
answer.
The UN have said that probably 1 billion people have to immigrate or something next 50 years. A lot of problems going to happen. It's not actually, I shouldn't say climate change only, it's other problems as well, like pollution, overpopulation, what else? Soil degradation. There's loads of other problems other than climate change. I shouldn't say only climate change. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're saying there's a group of issues kind of combined
They're all
together.
kind of linked. Yeah,
Yeah, they're linked.
And if
I
we
agree
solve
with you there.
if we solve all the other problems, we could also solve climate change. I mean, the solutions to climate change can also solve other problems, for the economy as well.
Really?
Yeah. I
You
mean,
think the economy will
there's
get
webs.
better with solutions to climate change?
Some of them would, but actually maybe not, because there's some solutions. Like, I heard that some people say that we can have a green growth.
Aren't gas
you can grow
stoves
the
and wood and gas being kind of poo-pooed in Europe right now because of climate change?
Yeah, I mean, the eco guys think that we can keep on growing the economy but have it more eco-friendly, but I doubt it. I think we'll have to reduce the economy and have a
What happens to
less
energy? What happens to energy costs when you start removing natural gas and oil from the equation?
Well, obviously they
Does it go up or down?
They go up, but that means
Yeah.
that the human standard of living is going to have to go down, which is
Oh.
already happening in Europe anyway.
So you want the human
Through the war.
You want the standard of living for humans to go down because of climate change.
Yes, because that's the only solutions. Technically, we'll have to reduce our energy demand by a lot.
Thank you for your honesty. I wish other politicians like Biden would just come out and say that.
Yeah, but nobody wants to say it. That's why climate change is not being solved. That's the reason. The left and the right are not solving it because they don't want to deal with the reality because we're pussios.
So the reality is that in 1 billion people will emigrate
And die, probably.
and die. When is this going to happen?
In the next 50 years, I'd say.
Next 50
Maybe
years.
earlier.
Well, definitely 1 billion people will die in the next 50 years from old age.
Yeah, but or like die younger, like, you know what I mean? Like, from starvation, all the other stuff that can happen.
How would you, let's say you're right and 1 billion people emigrate. How do we know that's from climate change and not something else?
Well, it could be also from other things as well, like bad land management, bad politics, all the other stuff. But climate change will be a big part of it.
Yeah, but how would you actually get that causal link? Like even a famine.
Well,
how do you know that's climate change and not just weather in a certain region?
Yeah, obviously. I mean, we won't be able to blame all the bad things that happen because of climate change, but the increasing amount of the weather things that are going to happen are going to be caused by climate change, increasingly over time. Like what's going on now with record heat in Texas and Mexico right now. Europe just has, like, Spain is in drought right now. China has lost.
Wait, record heat in Texas, you said?
Well, it's very hot right now in Texas.
That's called weather.
China has lost 90%
Did you hear what I
of
said,
its
Sean?
wheat.
That's called weather.
Yeah, but weather is influenced by climate, and climate is making it
So if
good
you
and bad.
give me anecdotal evidence of the record heats in Texas right now, and I get my electric bill and I look at it and it gives me the average temperature during winter, not my electric bill, my gas bill. I get the average temperature for my city from last year compared to this year. Guess what? This winter was much colder than the winter before in my town. So, I mean, is that evidence that climate change is not real?
Obviously, climate change
Obviously
is
not,
more complicated. Climate change will
So
maybe
don't give me
cause
the Texas
some
hot
parts.
thing then.
Some parts of the world will probably get colder, and some parts might get warmer. Climate change is not only about staying warmer; it's also the jet stream on the North Pole. There, the wind in the North Pole is going to weaken, so it's going to let cold air go lower and hot air go higher, and it's going to cause a lot of weird things to happen. You should follow this scientist on YouTube called Paul Beckwith. He's a very educated man, and he teaches you all this.
He's a scientist?
Stuff. Yes.
I follow
Paul
NASA.
Beckwith.
I follow NASA.
Okay. Well, he follows NASA, but he just makes it simpler for YouTubers.
Well, I make it
basically.
really simple.
Well, I mean, you don't seem to be really into it because if you vote for
No,
Trump,
I don't.
Trump will not solve it as well as other politicians.
I don't get scared like a lot of people on the left.
Yeah, well, you should. I mean,
why?
Republicans fear economic collapse.
How old are
and
you?
Stuff like that. I'm 31.
31. Well, I'm 52. And
right.
I did a paper in my freshman year of college on climate change in 1989.
Yeah, we knew about this like 100 years ago.
Yeah. And
we did fuck all about it.
I tell you, I've been hearing this whole doomsday scenario for decades now. And when you get older, you start to get numb to it.
So you were like a panicky kind of guy like me when you're younger.
Like when you were kind of when you were a kid, when you were 18 years old and you saw a woman bare-breasted, you're like, whoa, you were excited, right? But now in your 30s, it's like, no big deal. Like, you need more. This is what like it is with climate change. You become numb.
So you're basically saying old boomers don't worry about anything,
right? Because we actually have lived the meta study of these failed predictions. We've lived it. We've lived people. Yeah, but we're gonna have to
deal with it because climate change happens. So in our human lifespan, we only think about short-term problems. We don't think about long-term. Climate change is a fucking long-term problem, and we're not smart enough to think I mean, climate changes over a long time, obviously in history.
Yeah.
But we've changed it so fast compared to the historical record, like the fastest in planet history. The CO2 is being released up there as like big. We're basically into a sixth mass extinction. But most Republicans and
Extinction.
Christians, I mean, most religious people.
You know
don't
what?
believe
Maybe we
this 'cause
should
they
go
think-
extinct.
I
It'd
agree
be
with
great
you
for
because
it
we are
would be
dumb
great for
enough.
the planet.
It would be, but I still
Yeah,
think
so let's
humans
bring it on.
are freaking dumb enough to still have. I still think humans will have babies when the shit hits the fan. That's probably sure.
You want to know why it's not a major issue for me?
Why?
Because what I just told you, that I've seen failed predictions time and time again. That's one reason. Another reason is we humans can do stuff. We're not.
Do you think we can adapt to it?
Yes, and I don't think there's a rush. I know.
Well,
and number three, let me just give you don't have to push back yet. But number three is I do see this as a very political issue. I've had people actually come out and tell me it's more political. Because there's so many young people today who feel capitalism has given them a rough deal. They feel hopeless, and they see climate change policies as a way to get rid of capitalism.
well, I think communism has fucked up the climate as equally, so probably worse.
Well, yeah,
because China
agree with
is
you.
communism, and they fucked it up real bad.
The cleanest
I'm just
air
saying-
in the world is from Western democratic type countries.
Say it again. Sorry.
The cleanest air in the world is from Western democratic type countries.
But we're not guilty neither. I mean, I heard that 70% of all the CO2 comes from rich countries. China and India are catching up, but we're guilty. We're mainly guilty, like. So we just have to copy the poor countries and follow their lifestyle, basically.
Like, for example, like, do you know how much the climate has warmed in the last? Let me bring up NASA. Like, are you aware that the global temperature has not increased for 6 years?
Yeah, if that's true, then that's maybe an anomaly.
not an
But we're
if.
heading into
According
an
to NASA,
El
it is
Nino
true.
now. We're heading into an El Nino now. I think there was no El Nino there in the last couple of years. I think there was no El Nino. So this year there's an El Nino, so it's going to heat up the planet even more. So I'm expecting not good things to happen.
So how much has the planet increased? NASA goes back to 1880. What's your guess? Since 1880, well, on the one chart I'm looking at, anyhow, 1880, how much has the climate increased in temperature in degrees Celsius?
1%, 1.2%. I'm not sure. Some people say
not
we're
a bad
already-
guess.
we're-
It's 0.89.
Yeah.
Okay, now our air conditioners can handle that, right?
Yeah, but you need energy for air conditioning. I mean, I heard that in India, they probably will all die because the glaciers will melt in the next 50 years. They'll have no more water. They won't be able to handle the heat because it's going to be humid and hot. If it's humid and hot, over 35, you're dead. Basically,
You know more people die from coldness than heat?
I know.
Okay.
But the people from cold countries are, you probably follow that guy called Epstein. What's this guy? Duke guy who doesn't believe in climate change. But anyway, Jordan Peterson's a dumbass. But anyway, so a lot of people in
Where'd
cold
that come
countries
from?
will have to move to the equator or something. People have to move. I think the Russians
Move to the equator.
and-
You mean you want to move away from the equator?
yeah, maybe the equator's that's good, but Canada
The
and
equator
Russia
is
is no
the
good
hottest
because
part
that's
of the Earth.
yeah, but Canada and Russia are no good because it's gonna melt and burn and
Melt
shit
and
all-
burn?
yeah. The permafrost
Sean, you're not
gonna
making
melt.
sense.
The permafrost is gonna melt
Right.
in the
right.
tundra.
Yeah, and then
It already is. It already is.
Yeah,
And,
and,
the
we're going to have more
forests are gonna
crops
burn.
per year because we can have more growing seasons
Yeah,
because it's a little
no,
warmer.
if you drain that, you make it maybe grow some rice or something, but you cannot really drain that. It's kind of hard to do. Well, you maybe could, but the population is basically going to go down. Basically, simple. Keep it simple, really. For the Republicans,
Someone just made a claim: the top 10 hottest years on record are all in the last 15 years. That's not
Probably.
true. That's not true. Well, it depends what you're meaning, Glenroy. You're talking about like when the Earth first formed itself, it was, I think, hotter.
Well, he's probably thinking of human record, like
Yeah, he's
how much.
probably thinking of just data that would make his case seem good.
I mean, to be fair, crocodiles and sharks survived mass extinctions in the past, but I'm not sure if humans will be able to. Maybe we could. We're pretty smart.
Yeah. No, we can adapt. We can move. I mean, if the sea levels rise a little bit and causes some beachfront property to go underwater, just move inland. I mean,
Yeah. But I still
got
think
cars,
that
we
the
got
human
U-Hauls.
population. Yeah, but I still think the human population is just not going to be sustained. It's not sustainable. And,
Well, people will have
that's
less
my
kids
opinion.
anyhow.
Yeah, they'll be forced to because of economics and the climate and stuff.
And because of, people are realizing that it takes work to have children. And
Yeah.
that it's immoral to have kids when you're in poverty. People are starting to learn that.
I mean, the religious people will need to I think the communist China could solve this quite well because they follow the rules in China.
Oh,
And
yeah,
maybe the
you're right.
religious people.
You're right.
The religious people.
My double first cousin lived in China for a while, and yeah, they follow rules better than Americans do.
So if they wanted to solve climate change, the government will tell them do it, and they can do it. I don't know much about democratic states. It's a bit less, but I could be wrong.
No, what I should have said, you're right, Glenn. What I should have said is that the temperature of the Earth in 2022 has not made new highs, and we are cooler than we were in 2016. That's the way I should have phrased it. In fact, I should have just brought up the graph. The reason why I do this is to show it helps people not to panic. Hang on a second.
Well, we should panic. There's nothing wrong with panicking.
I got to take this call. Nice talking to you.
All right, let you go. Bye.
No, it's like,
Would you rather one of your children become like me, an atheist who's conservative, or some type of Christianity but a far left liberal, not liberal, leftist, woke leftist? Would you rather have one of your kids become like me, a conservative atheist, or a far left progressive Christian, woke Christian?
Oh my goodness. They'll make it to heaven by being a far left progressive Christian. But I would really despise the way they live on earth.
You'd rather have your kid like me, right?
Yes.
And hope. Would you rather one of your children become like me, an atheist who's conservative, or some type of Christianity but a far left liberal, not liberal, leftist, woke leftist?
If you're going to cry, leave the table and go into the living room there.
it's right there.
When a white woman starts crying, what happens?
All the attention is to the white woman.
What I deserve is not what any of us deserve. And so they're literally trying to destroy us. They're trying to destroy me. They're trying to destroy the movement. And I just need us to be stronger.
If you're going to cry, leave the table and go into the living room there.
It's right there.
When a white woman starts crying, what happens?
All the attention in the state woman.
What I deserve is not what any of us deserve. And so they're literally...
You know what I expect of white women? Not a damn thing. Nothing. I expect nothing of you because you have never given me anything.
Here it is. Show me the money.
White women have abused us our whole lives. Why do we have to hold your hand? Can't we just tell you, hey, you guys have hurt us. This is what you've done. Now make it right.
Show me the money.
Because you have never given me anything.
I love black people! I love black people!
You know what I expect of white women? Not a damn thing. Nothing. I expect nothing of you because you have never given me anything.
Here it is. Show me the money.
White women have abused us our whole lives. Why do we have to hold your hand? Can't we just tell you, hey, you guys have hurt us. This is what you've done. Now make it right.
Show me the money.
Because you have never given me anything.
Are the most dangerous women.
Most dangerous women out there. Sorry, guys, I had to take that call. It was very important person. It was Jesus. He had some bad news for me. He confirmed I will not inherit the kingdom of heaven. I said, "Are you sure?" I confessed you with my mouth when I was a child. He said, "No." He said Paul was right. The Apostle Paul was right. I had lived a life of sin through rejecting him. And sorry to get religious on a political channel. I know people get mad when I'm political on the religious channel, so I gotta be fair. No, it wasn't my wife. My wife is, I think, home. But it was weird because I was talking to this person on the phone, and then I didn't want you guys to be bored, so I started playing all these shorts. But my headphones were so loud, I was going, "Oh, I hope this person can't hear it." And that would be bad. Hearing ludicrous. Did you guys like the shorts? Were they triggering enough? Okay, the room's open for someone else to call in. When the phone rang, I was talking to Sean, but I think we were basically done anyhow. He was talking about the tundra melting and being on fire, and yeah, that's exactly what happened, Lungfish. Jesus said, he ghosted me. Wait, Glenn, you should be celebrating, right? Isn't it better that we haven't made new highs in 6 years than if every year was hotter than the previous? Like, why always be so negative? Why not look at the positive? Say, yes, that is good, Doug. Say, yes, Doug, it is good that it's not getting higher every single year, and we haven't made new highs in 6 years. See, but people on the left some people on the left can't even do that. They just got to make everything look so bad. So bad, Gabe. What's their problem? Always so negative.
Always so negative.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I feel like we're not the ones talking about trans people all the time. So,
Well, yeah, you know what? I've admitted this, like with especially with the drag queen issue. Like, it's just it's a way for the left to trigger the right, and I want to tell the people on the right, don't get triggered. If you don't like it, don't have your kids there. That's it. It's simple.
yeah. That being said, the reason why I called actually was just kind of wanted to push back on your takes about Trump, like how bad it would be if he got reelected.
Oh, this will be good. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I guess my question would be, because I know you've talked a little bit about the idea of, in the past, how you think what people refer to as the insurrection on January 6th isn't as big a deal.
That was very bad, but not as bad as other things. Yeah.
Yes. But what I wanted to say is, wouldn't that get like so much worse if that person got reelected, the person for which that January 6th event was over?
Why would you need an insurrection if he's in power?
Well, I'm not sure. I'm saying is, wouldn't the sentiment that like was happening on January 6th, wouldn't that just kind of be, what's the word I'm looking for?
They were mad because Trump wasn't president, but if Trump was president, they would be less mad, yes? Or are you talking about when he finishes the second term?
It would be more validated, right? So you'd have a president.
Who cares if they're validated? Does that hurt your feelings?
Well, you'd have a president who gets to triumphantly talk about all the time how that they were robbed in the last election cycle. And basically, you're increasing people's distrust in the fairness of U.S. elections, and I think that's a pretty dangerous thing.
So you don't want Trump elected because you don't want to validate people who thought he won the other time.
It's more like, I don't want an increase in politicians who can just increase distrust in U.S. elections. Like, we see that stuff happening in South America. It doesn't end very well.
You know what else you see in South America?
What?
People going after their political foes through criminal prosecution, which is happening against Trump, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think Biden's done a pretty good job of keeping himself out of it, though, in the Department of Justice investigation, wouldn't you say?
Keeping himself out of it.
I mean, is your whole view that former presidents can't get indicted on anything? Because I think that's a pretty bad take.
Not on this. I think this would be, for people who are old enough to remember, I think this is equivalent to what the Republicans did to Clinton in the 90s. Like, this is how non-serious of an issue it is for me. Like, to me, this is like a blowjob from Monica Lewinsky.
Okay, here's what I would say. I say on the law, I think technically he did something illegal. I would say that this is an Al Capone issue, which is, I think there's a lot of things that are technically illegal he did that were much worse that we can't get him on, and so we're getting him on the thing we can get him on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. If it's true. I mean,
I think it's pretty. Would you like to make a wager on whether or not? Well, actually, let's see. I should be careful because
I love making wagers. Propose something.
Okay. That
I'd rather make wagers than talk.
Yeah, right. I would like to make a wager that he either gets convicted or he makes a deal for a charge.
Oh, no, that's so likely. No, I wouldn't. I'd be on the same side as you.
Okay, yeah, it's
a better wager would be maybe.
I think with all this stuff happening and then he gets elected after that, I think it would be a terrible look for the country. I really, really do. I think it would also just.
Who cares about what it looks like?
And I think it would increase the confidence of some of the worst conspiratorial strands of thought in political discourse. It's that just like not really a big deal at all whatsoever. Or...
If let's say he's, I know you don't believe this will happen, but let's say he's acquitted of everything.
Okay.
Before the next election, which probably won't happen, and let's say he is reelected, because you brought this up, would this cause your confidence to drop a little bit on the other election in 2020? Like, let's say he wins in a landslide against Biden, or even against any Democratic candidate.
Would I think it's more likely the last election was rigged?
Yeah. I'm not saying that. I'm not asking if you would say, "Oh no, it's definitely rigged," but would your confidence go down that maybe there was some shenanigans going on?
No, I don't think so at all.
Okay.
If anything, I would think that
Because you mentioned the validation of.
I would just think that Biden is just again kind of a milquetoast terrible candidate, and that he just is handling all of the terrible inflation issues that happen as a result of COVID. And that.
But let's say Biden doesn't run and a new candidate, I don't know who.
Well, he'd have to die or be incapacitated for that. Sorry.
No, I don't think so. I think
dying replacement. No way.
I actually
There's an advantage for the president who's in office. Like, why would you give up that advantage?
because I actually think a lot of people on the left are actually agreeing with people on the right, thinking that he's not competent for office anymore. In fact, isn't there polling data on that? We don't have to guess.
Well, they might agree with that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they still want to win an election.
Yeah, but not him.
Well, I think that they would feel like at least they have a Democratic VP who could take over in that case.
Harris.
Yeah. And even if you're like, whatever, Harris is that, you have to think, oh, it's better than
But
Trump.
no, but we're talking about running for president. Who do you think? I think I'd be willing to wager this, that I think I might need odds, though. It's still not clear to me, but I do think that if I start seeing negative coverage of Biden on MSNBC in the next few months, it's over for Biden.
As far as him winning or being the Democratic nominee?
For being the Democratic nominee.
I would give you 2-1.
You give me 2-1?
That he would be the Democratic nominee, and then but I would want a provision. I don't want it to count if he like dies or becomes incapacitated.
Yeah, that's fair. Would I accept 2-1? The thing is, I said if I start seeing negative coverage of Biden on MSN, a very left-wing media site.
So you'd want to see some things before considering a wager first.
Yeah, because right now, I think I would need more than 2-1. But if I saw something like that, a negative coverage on Biden on MSNBC, I'd almost go even money at that point.
By the way, I love considering wagers on political outcomes. I actually think it's quite fun. So,
but didn't I thought I brought up a poll there.
I was so angry I didn't wager on Trump in his first go around for
I did, and I was wrong. I thought Hillary would win. Oh, you're talking?
Oh yeah, someone offered me 3-1 on it, and he wanted to go for 1,000. And I wasn't willing to put up $1,000 at that point in time. So
yeah, that's pretty stiff there. But yeah, I think we have actual polling data that's like only 2 weeks old on. Didn't I read that out before? When did you get here?
I actually got here pretty late, so I mean, I went back a little bit in the stream to see what I missed, but
because I actually think it's well over 50% that over half the country does not think Biden is fit for office.
I could hear. That sounds plausible, honestly. I mean, I just don't think that's going to be enough for him not to be the Democratic nominee.
You think that people would rather have a brain dead president than Trump?
I think that whatever Democratic powers that be, well, first of all, I just don't see them getting another candidate. It would be such an unknown. You'd be taking a huge gamble. I think they'd rather take this milquetoast meh candidate, and their whole strategy is going to be, well, it depends, right? If Trump gets the nominee, it's going to be, well, listen, do you really want this fucking guy back again? And that's literally going to be their whole strategy. It's going to be different.
I found it.
Not Trump. It's going to be more difficult, I think, actually.
So this came out 2 weeks ago from an organization out of Harvard. Is Joe Biden mentally fit to serve as president of the United States, or do you have doubts about his fitness for office? So 59% have doubts, at least.
Now, is this on registered voters? Do you know? Is it just
yes, these are registered voters. Do you think Joe Biden is showing he's too old to be president, or do you think he is showing he is fit to be president? So they asked basically the same question two different ways. And 66% said he's too old. Now, a lot of people say the same thing about Trump, but we're just focused on Biden right now.
Yeah, it's just I just don't see it being enough. Like I could see someone saying, "Yeah, I think he's too old," but then still just thinking he's the lesser of two evils or something like that.
So what's the worst thing Trump ever did while he was president? While he was president. So basically, I'm not talking about the insurrection because he wasn't president. Well, he was not elected president, but
I'm not confident, but I would say there is a report out. I think it was with General Mattis where Trump told him to do something. I think bombing some sort of target. And gosh, my memory on this is terrible. And after Trump basically got off the phone, Mattis turned around and said, "Yeah, we're not doing that." I think that's the scariest thing, that he could just kind of go off on from a personal vendetta and just do an irrational military action that would get us into the middle of something.
okay.
I think it's the biggest risk. I'm not saying that that's like even likely, but I think the risk is just too high.
Who killed more people through war action? Trump or Bush? George W. Bush.
Oh, it's got to be Bush, right?
Right. Who killed more people through war type action? Trump or Obama?
I think drone strikes went up under Obama, right?
Yeah. So the answer is Obama, and I think you would be correct.
Yeah, I think that is true. I just think that there's not only just getting into some sort of stupid war we shouldn't get into the first place, that the risk is too high for that, but even just the small chance of doing something that would set off a nuclear catastrophe, I think that's just too high. That's something I don't like to mess around with.
So in your opinion, like, you view Trump as so unhinged that he might make some stupid, goofy mistake that would cause like a nuclear war?
I do think it's a possibility, yeah.
Well, anything's possible in the magical kingdom. I'm talking about like
I think it's too possible. It's
too okay. It's more than just possible. It's you wouldn't say, like, if you were to put a percentage on it, his goofiness causing a nuclear war, it goes from like 0.001% to 2% because it's Trump instead of a different person, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. Like, how on earth would I put a number on it? But yeah, if I just do it based off comparison,
Because they're both very low. Like,
yeah. I mean, just it's low enough. I mean, just because hopefully, you have enough advisors around Trump who are going to keep him from doing something stupid like that. But again, how much can you mitigate it? Is it enough for me to feel confident? No.
That's a great point. Like, I think we all know that George W. Bush actually didn't run the country when he was president.
Not so much in foreign policy. Yeah, that's for sure.
And I think it's, to some degree, that's true for all presidents. It's like people have this idea that the president is like running the country. That's baloney.
Yeah, which is why I think it's kind of sad. Like, I actually liked when I heard certain advisors around Trump get appointed, especially like solid military leaders. It's like, okay, this guy knows what they're doing. And then one by one, they're all just leaving or getting kicked out or resigning. And I'm like, okay, who are we replacing these guys with? So,
do you remember your life, let's say in 2015, what you were doing? And
yeah, I remember it pretty well.
Okay, so get that in your head, and then I want you to compare it to 2019. Which year was better for you personally, 2019 or 2015? In terms of, your career, your standard of living.
I'm still trying to get career stuff going right now, so I guess I'll say 2019. 2015 was pretty close. It was closer in proximity to like.
So your life was better under Trump than it was with Obama.
Yeah, I would.
You know what? If people were honest with themselves, I'm talking before COVID, okay? Because COVID messed everything up for everybody.
Yeah, that was the only thing I was about to put a caveat on.
Yeah.
And then during COVID, I feel like I was able to finish my education pretty easily. I feel like we're kind of getting some of the effects of that now with all the inflation. So that's
but listen to my point though, like, because a president does have power, but it's the administration, the cabinet, it's the Congress, it's the Senate that actually makes policies. Like, there's so many parts. Like, the Constitution is beautiful, checks and balances. But the bottom line is, I would say for the vast majority of people in the United States, their lives are better in 2019 than in 2015. And unless you're a very partisan, I can't say anything positive that can relate to Trump at all. If you're that type of person, if you can be honest with yourself and just admit that.
I'm sorry. I should have listened a little more closely. You're saying within the United States, correct?
Yes, within, of course, because we're talking about,
Yeah.
So within the United States, I would say the vast majority of the United States populace, their lives were better in 2019 before, or even early 2020, before COVID really hit, compared to 2015, 2016. If you remember, 2015 and 2016, there was not a recession, but the economy really dipped. The stock market wasn't doing that well. Trump became president. The stock market went crazy up because he lowered taxes on corporations.
And then it settled back down.
The unemployment continued to drop. It dropped under Obama, but it kept dropping under Trump. And it's still low today.
I would contest that story just a little bit. So yes, there was a little bit of a dip, but it was.
I'm not giving Trump credit for all these things.
Right, exactly. Well, that's what I was going to say. I was going to give you the standard.
I'm just saying the state of affairs in the United States was such that when I hear people say how evil Trump was, usually it's about feelings. It's about, he made me feel bad. He divided people. But when you actually ask them, how did he hurt you? Other than feelings, they can't name anything.
Okay, so I would say that even if we grant that, I think my points about risk still stand. But I still would say this. So one of the things I think liberals would say is they would say that these are broad economic trends, right? Trump probably inherited some of the growing economy that's going to be happening over that Obama had, broadly speaking, and that also the effects that Trump's decisions will also have downstream effects, right? You're not going to see the effects of these things until a few years later and stuff. So I would say you could point to
but you could say that about
any precedent, yeah.
Yeah, at some point people have to take a stand and say, well, I agree with you in what you're talking about. You just can't look at 4 years or 8 years and say, well, especially the first 4 years, and say, oh, that's all the president, because the other president has an effect on your first 4 years, and even in the president before that sometimes. And so you just can't. The whole thing's a mess when people start bringing up, well, look at the unemployment rate against this person and this president, and it's like, no. I mean,
I think something also though that Democrats would point out too is it could have been a lot worse if Trump wasn't so ineffective. So if you don't even remember, he came after Obamacare pretty hard. And if it wasn't for McCain, I think basically out of pettiness, just totally stopped.
No, but for a left-wing person, that's good.
Right. But my point being is that it could have been really bad.
If Trump would have got rid of Obamacare?
Yeah. From a left-wing perspective, that's really bad, right?
Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah. So it's not always.
And you're right. He did fail with that.
Correct. Yes.
And he also failed with putting a wall over most of Mexico.
To be honest, I think the biggest thing from a left-wing perspective you can criticize him for, other than maybe being a little too, I brought up that situation with Mattis, but it's going to be the tax breaks, which is going to be kind of standard fare for any Republican candidate.
Yeah, you're against tax breaks?
I would say that they overwhelmingly went to people in higher tax brackets, and that's not a policy I would support.
Actually, with Trump, it went down on every except for the bottom one.
It did, but proportionally speaking, it benefited people in higher tax brackets.
That's because it benefited them because they pay more taxes. It benefited them more because they paid more taxes. That's just science.
But we're talking about percentages, or are you talking about dollar amounts?
Both. If you pay $1 million a year in taxes and you get a tax cut, you're going to have a bigger tax cut in dollars.
So, let me put it just this way. Let's say people in the lower tax bracket got a 4% tax break, and people in the higher tax brackets got a 5% tax breaks. Just generally speaking, I'm going to be against that.
Because?
I think the way the economy works is within relation to each other. So when you're talking about things like buying power, for example, that makes a huge difference. So yeah, short term, you're going to get a little bit more money in your pocket. Long term speaking, it's just going to it's going to increase income inequality, which is going to decrease buying power, which is going to make the poor become more poor.
The tax cuts will make the poor more poor.
Again, that's a very, very loose way of putting it, but basically, yes.
How exactly does that work? How does someone paying more or paying less taxes make someone else poorer?
It just has to do with the resources that are available proportionally speaking, right? So if people who are rich,
in the United States, there's never in the last, I don't know, 3 decades, there hasn't been a line item that's gone down in welfare programs or anything like that.
What are you talking about? You mean like there hasn't been an item removed?
There hasn't been any decrease in social programs in decades. There's been a decrease in the rate of growth, but not a numerical decrease. So when you say,
but generally speaking, the goods and services that people who are in lower tax brackets need the most, those items have been going up more, which means that
you're talking about the inflation.
Yeah. And so what I'm saying is it's not keeping up with inflation.
What do you think causes inflation?
There's lots of things that cause inflation.
What do you think is the biggest reason why we have inflation today?
Biggest reason today, I would say it's backlash from COVID. So you have supply is down, and so demand's going.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's one reason. Another reason is have you heard of the PPP and employment? Is it EIC, ECC, whatever they called it, employment insurance credit or whatever? You realize how many people got millions of dollars for keeping their employees as long as they didn't fire their employees, and their businesses got better. I
agree that was not handled.
The government actually printed money, digitized money.
You realize that was also a Trump policy, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm against that. And flooded the markets, flooded the country with a supply of dollars. I told this story before, in the business I'm in, a guy signed an engagement letter, sent me a retainer to do a job. And while I'm on the phone with him, getting things set up, he was bragging how much money the government sent him. And he said, my business, he had, I shouldn't say, he had a business where COVID actually helped him. It wasn't in the food industry, but he had a business where the COVID helped his business. So he got all this money basically for no reason. Like the goal of this social program or this help wasn't needed. And so he was bragging to me how much money he had. So the guy was stupid because I'm about to make the engagement letter. And so I just, as he's talking, I'm changing the numbers on the fly, like higher. That's inflation in real time. I know this guy has a ton of money for free. He didn't work for it, didn't earn it, just got it put in his bank account. So now I'm raising my prices. And guess what? He changed his mind and said, keep the money. Didn't even care. I didn't have to do anything. Kept thousands and thousands of dollars from him.
I agree it's a cause of inflation. I would, you can tell me if you agree or not. I think supply chain issues, though, are like if you go to the grocery store.
Oh, I agree with you. I agree.
I think that's now people will say, well, the prices need to go as high as they did. And I'm like, well, that's kind of under a capitalist framework. It's kind of a dumb question to ask but I guess my point on that stuff is, so I agree with you, essentially. I agree that just throwing around that money, if you look at leftists' big, complaint is that a lot of companies actually did quite well as a result of COVID. A lot of them have been reporting.
Oh, yeah.
Actually.
I did quite well when Biden was elected, too. I mean, Biden was good for my business.
Yeah. And it gets to your point, generally speaking, which is like, generally speaking, the president in and of himself is not going to have usually a huge effect on your life one way or another. So COVID was just, I mean, unless the president just completely decided not to react to COVID, I guess that would be the only way that our economy would really look different. And even then, I think the global economy would have affected.
You know, thinking about it and being honest, I've lived in the United States under Biden, Trump, Obama, Clinton, and George H. I think George W. George H. I wasn't here yet. But out of all those presidents, the president that actually impacted me positively the most has been Biden, because people fear him, fear higher taxation, and so they use my services to put their money in trusts and stuff. But it's been beautiful for me. One of my best years was the year after he got voted in. And under Trump, my business actually kind of sucked because Republicans didn't have this fear. They didn't really need me that much. But now people are scared of the IRS. People are scared that their estate taxes will go up, so they're constantly putting things in trusts and shifting assets from here to there. So it's good for me. So in a way, I hope Biden wins.
From just a personal selfishness standpoint.
Yeah.
Do you actually? That's a good question. I should ask you that. Do you vote based off of that or not?
No, I probably wouldn't vote based on that. If it were down to right now, as of today, if it were down to Trump or Biden, I'd vote for Trump.
Gotcha. What are the main reasons?
I would say the main reasons would be not because of Trump per se, but I think Republicans are okay with making people cry, and I'm okay with making people cry. Now, that sounds ridiculous on its face, but there's a deeper meaning behind that. And I think the way I'm seeing the country, because free speech is a huge issue for me, and I understand Trump is not, you can actually say he's not a free speech guy, but I think the Republican Party as a whole is okay with making people feel bad, making them cry, not supporting each other. But to me, that's a good thing, because I don't want to live in a country where you have to be so careful what you say that it starts to erode your free speech. And so that would be one issue, the ability to cause people to cry. I think the Republicans are more hard-hearted. They're not as soft. And so I like that.
Would you say that it's basically, so let's say Biden was the most vulgar, vile mouth, politically incorrect, kind of like a Trump, but he's still a Democrat, right? So he believes, we're going to raise taxes so we can raise enough.
That's a great question. I know where you're going. My answer is yes. Like, if Biden were, when it comes to free speech, if Biden were to say something like, good for Elon Musk for buying Twitter. I mean, they were taking so many things, people's tweets off. It was like overblown. Sure, you got to do some of them, but and you know what? Let's risk misinformation being out there. If Biden were to come out and say that and Trump not, I'd be more likely to vote for Biden. I'm telling you the truth. Because this whole idea of censoring potential misinformation is very dangerous, because that misinformation could be true information.
I guess here's a question I'm wondering, right? Because I'm going back to when you talked about how, January 6th, right? How big a deal is this stuff? How big a deal is it?
We've talked about this several times, me and you.
Right, but I'm going to make a comparison. But I know that this issue of free speech is a big deal to you, right?
Yeah.
And I guess how big a deal do you think these threats to free speech are? Because I think, you mentioned it with January 6th.
It's getting better, but for a time there, Twitter's one of the biggest social media platforms out there when it comes to, just everyday average people speaking their mind. Now that Elon Musk owns it, I feel much more comfortable, about the country in general. So it's not as bad as it used to be. And I think the whole woke movement, as I define it, is dying. People have had enough with the craziness. So I think actually the country is over the hump of its insanity. And so I'm not as worried about it as I used to be.
Yeah, so that's, I guess, what my question is then how good of a reason is that to be basing your vote on who you want to be president?
Well, that's just one reason, and I still think like people who would vote for, basically, how can I put this simply? If you're against Elon Musk, you're probably left leaning. If you're for Elon Musk, you're probably right leaning. Because I like what Elon Musk did with Twitter, I would vote for. I don't want to be aligned with the people who are against Elon Musk. I don't want to be aligned with people who are against even Robert Kennedy Jr. speaking on Joe Rogan's podcast. Like, if you're a person who says, I'm against that conspiracy theory nut going on there and debating a real PhD, I don't want to align myself with you. And if you're voting for Biden, my instinct is to vote against you. Because I think in the arena of ideas, you don't, of course, don't have to debate everybody every single time, but in the arena of ideas on a huge platform, I would think that someone who believes truly they have the truth on their side, has nothing to hide, nothing to fear, and is getting paid $1.5 million to their charity of their choice, I would think I would use the word immoral for not doing it.
Yeah, so here I'm what I'm going to say is I still think that honestly that you're just still more likely just to vote for Trump based off of Republican tax policies, and here's why.
No, that's not true.
I do think that though, because I think
that's not true. I'm okay with the tax rates where they're at. In fact, I was okay with them under Obama.
How important is a president when it comes to these free speech issues? Like, free speech is pretty darn protected, legally speaking, in the U.S. I just don't see.
Well, with the free speech comes a lot of other issues like diversity, sensitivity training, like the stuff we've seen in the military under Biden about basically sensitivities and training. Like, I think you should be able to look at a woman in the military and say, no, you're not strong enough, you're weak, get out of here, this is not for you. Like, we got to be a country where we can actually hurt people's feelings. You know what I mean? It's to look at a woman who's a firefighter and say, no, you're not strong enough, you should not be a firefighter. And if you are, you just work in the office.
So you would still say the sums total of politically correct sort of cultural issues that Biden might be more sensitive to, and that Trump would be like, no, fuck these things. Those are the things that are going to be the big swaying factor for you as far as who you would elect president.
I don't know how big a swing it would be, but yeah, I'd place that near the top. Another thing is immigration is a big one. Okay. And again, this is about feelings, right? Like,
I've gone back a little bit on some of his looser immigration stuff, right?
Yes, I agree, but I would side with the Republic. Like you mentioned, taxation, that's probably the huge one. But for me, it's these types of issues where, in general, Republicans tend to be more hard-hearted, and I'm speaking this way on purpose because I want to resonate with people on the left, because they will agree with me. Republicans are more hard-hearted, more cold, and not as compassionate. And for me, that's a good thing on certain issues. That's a good thing when it comes to the military. That's a good thing when it comes to closed borders, because you can actually do more harm than good by being compassionate. And for someone on the left, they can't understand that. But people on the right who are listening to me, they understand completely what I'm saying.
Do you think Biden's a bigger risk to the U.S.'s national security than Trump is?
I
would consider it. I think it's fair because I think immigration is part of that.
Immigration is part of that, but so is the military. So is, like, people have said that Biden has weakened the military because of this social equities, this whole political correctness.
Like, do you think Trump would be handling the Russia-Ukraine thing?
Oh, another example, yeah, like even forcing the vaccine mandates on the people in the military, people in the government. I think I was against that. And a lot of people who are now suing or getting their jobs back in the military.
I guess the question I'm bringing up is, like, I hear you bringing up things, and I could see, it's like, yeah, I could see where someone...
And a Republican would be less likely to do something like that. Like mandating a vaccine.
Right. And I guess what I'm saying is I'm trying to compare these things to these other bigger factors, like right issues like national security, issues related to bigger picture things, I guess. And I guess what I'm saying is how big of a picture threat are these? Like if Biden,
I'm not scared of any country invading the United States.
but I'm also not afraid of like the First Amendment just going away. You know, like do you think that how big of a threat do you think Biden being reelected is to free speech? Like I just don't see it, Doug.
But your question is very nebulous. Like I could answer it like 1%. But what does that mean? Like
Right. It's a nuclear issue.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a little.
That's what I'm trying to say. It's also a January 6th issue. It's like, well, if I say that, hey, Trump causing a January 6th causes like an 0.5% increase of the U.S. turning into a totalitarian state. Like, what do you make?
What do you mean by totalitarian state? I really want to talk about this because I hear this word thrown around like it's candy. What's a totalitarian state to you?
Well, how about this? How about just a coup of a democratically elected presidential election?
A coup of
like a legitimate coup that was
like a dictatorship.
Essentially, but again, it's you could still have like elections. Maybe the Senate still has elections, the representatives still have elections, but they threw out the guy who was elected president and they put in place the guy who was not elected president.
So your question is, am I scared of that happening in the future?
Well, no, I guess what I'm saying is I could put a small number on it, but I'm saying is, aren't we still comparing kind of apples to apples with the threats that you're talking about as far as free speech?
Yeah, for you, you think that's a big threat, even though it's still small. And for me, the free speech is, a threat, but still small. Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Okay. And then what about if we forget, because I think, for example, the idea of like a nuclear, because again, nuclear accidents can just happen out of incompetence, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be malicious, right?
Right.
So I guess my question is, I would think that's way more likely to happen under a Trump presidency than like an actual overthrow.
Well, what do you base that on?
Just in general, the fact that he's, I guess I would say, shoots from the hip a bit more when it comes to like.
Yeah, but realize there's two keys or safeguards and everything, right?
Huh?
There's safeguards, right? For not making mistakes like that.
There are. How much do you want to test those?
Like only the Congress can declare war.
Oh yeah, that's worked well for us.
Like if we're talking about competency, like you really think Biden's more competent than Trump right now?
I think he's much more likely to listen to the experts who do know what they're doing.
Well, that's because he has to.
Because he's been a lifelong politician. Yeah, he's been relying on these people for a long time.
No, I'm saying he has to because he's not all there anymore.
I think that you'd be surprised how much over his career, how much foreign policy information he's retained.
I'm talking right now. He's not all there right now.
Okay.
He's like you.
I can concede your point.
Yeah, like he's. And I'm not saying this to be mean. I'm just saying like
I think he is showing a decline with age.
66% of the country agree with what I just said, what we're saying. Like he's not fit. He's too old.
I think we're seeing a decline with age that's not uncommon for someone of his age. But I don't think, for example, that would be anywhere close for him to be labeled incompetent, for example. As like legally speaking, as far as like he can take care of himself and whatever his financial affairs. So I don't think we're anywhere close to that. He has some cognitive decline.
He cannot find his way off a stage. We're talking about competency here. He needs to be he needs to be ushered everywhere he goes. He needs a teleprompter every time he speaks. Like you can say all the bad stuff you want about Trump, but Trump does not need that. He knows where he's going. He might be going to the wrong place, but he's going there confidently.
And that's a better trait.
Well, no, but I'm saying he can make mistakes, but he doesn't need to be helped. He doesn't need a teleprompter. He of course still uses it, but like these are qualities in a president that people prefer over the Biden.
How much not all there do you think Biden actually is?
How much what?
I think that's how much do you think decline he has from where he's been? Like
I think he's declined a lot just in the last 2 years.
So from like when he first was a politician, like 80%?
I don't think I was even in this country when he was first a politician.
Well, right, but I mean, whether you think he's like politically, people always talked about how he used to put his foot in his mouth a lot, but he wasn't like an idiot, right? He was a normal, average Joe, right, in politics. And now you're saying that he's not all there. Like, I'm saying, what percentage of a decline have we seen? Does he have like 20% left of his all there-ness, or like
maybe, yeah, compared to his prime?
Well, I think that's going to matter a lot when it comes to choosing for me between Biden and Trump.
You're okay with 20% of Biden versus 90% of Trump on competency?
No, I think there's more there to him than 20%.
Oh. What do you think? How much has he declined?
I think maybe like 30%. I think that's generous.
I think he's like, whenever he actually can put sentences together, he's probably on Ritalin or something.
Well, I don't want to get too much into drugs. I think there's some indications both ways on that one. I think it explains a lot of why Trump has energy. But I think also, again, because Biden is, his competency has declined, if you want to say, or, I would say that it makes him less of a risk to do something drastic or to do something rash. I think Trump's just
yeah, I don't have that fear. Not at all. I can't relate to you there.
So you don't think Putin could say something, or a series? He gets into like all of a sudden his best buddy Putin, they're no longer cool anymore. He just
no. I am not scared of Putin. I am not scared of a response to Putin. No, not scared. Do you remember when people were like pooping in their drawers when about North Korea about, I don't know, was it 10 years ago now? And I remember my friends like really worried about North Korea. I mean, they've tested nuclear. I'm just like laughing at them. What are you talking about?
Let's hold on. No, I'm going to push you on this, because talk about a guy who might not be as there as he used to be. I think Putin might be that person, right? Would you agree that there might be some things going on in Putin's life that might make him be acting a little more irrational?
I have no idea. I don't speak Russian, so I can't listen to him. And
I think his health has definitely declined. I think he's thinking about legacy a lot. I think he's thinking about what he wants to leave behind as like his big.
Sure, I'll grant you that. What's your point?
My point being is, then you have a guy like Trump who takes all of a sudden, hey, Vlad, he wants like a quid pro quo. I'll do something nice for you. You do something nice for me. And then, like, I don't know, Putin doesn't follow through or something. And all of a sudden he gets pissed off. You don't think that could set up?
So your fear is that Trump or Putin will have a tantrum and cause a war?
Why is that not a reasonable fear?
Well, from the U.S. side, because there's checks and balances. That's why.
But he's still the commander in chief, right? He can say, hey, I want you to put troops right on this border right here.
Yeah, but there's checks and balances. There's generals who are advising.
And then Putin decides to run
are you seriously scared of World War III or something?
I think it's dumb not to take that seriously as a possibility, even if it's like not the most likely scenario.
No, sorry. I
more seriously than the idea that free speech is going to go
I
away.
cannot relate to this at all. This is just all gibberish to me. Yes, it's possible. Is it like even 10% probable? No.
So like that scenario where
this is fear-mongering, in my opinion.
So Trump couldn't put troops on the border just out of spite.
Yes, he could.
And so you think that action alone wouldn't like seriously increase any chance of some sort of nuclear accident or some sort of nuclear?
No. It would increase the risk, yes, but it'd be the same risk as going out in a thunderstorm and being struck by lightning. It's still very rare. We put troops on borders before. We've put aircraft carriers right in the face of people, our enemies. Didn't make a dent. You know why? Because the United States is the biggest military in the world. We could flatten anybody out in seconds.
Right, but that assumes a rational actor. And again, I think Putin's cognitive abilities have been going down.
We could be totally irrational and flatten countries out in seconds. If we don't care about casualties. If we care about casualties, then it takes longer.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you don't care anymore, or you're like, I could beat the U.S. in a game of chicken, and then it goes wrong. Like, is that not legitimate?
You're not going to get me to be fearful like you. Are you trying to get me to be fearful like you?
I'm trying to test you to see if reasonable considerations are going to have an impact or not.
Ask short, simple questions, and I'll answer very quickly.
Well, I asked the one about the border, and you said no. So I think that's the big one. That's our huge disagreement there, I think.
Yeah, but what was the question?
So the question was, do you think if Trump put troops on the border of Russia, that wouldn't drastically increase the chances of some sort of nuclear incident happening?
No.
Okay. Do you think it goes up if Putin's cognitive capacities are...
Yes, goes up. Next
Goes
question.
up? Okay.
But you didn't say by how much.
By how much?
I'm just totally getting bored of this conversation already. You got another question?
Fair enough. No, we've been talking for a while. It's fair.
Because I just see this. What you're trying to do is you're trying me to feel what you feel, right?
Right, because you never do that, Doug.
No, I mean, if you want to get me to feel like you feel, you have to go to what I value. And if you know that I don't fear these doomsday scenarios, like I am not scared of climate change at all.
Right,
not even a little bit.
Doug, the flat out.
And you're going to try to convince me that I should be scared of Trump could cause a nuclear war? Not even a little bit am I scared.
But Doug, that doesn't actually defend your position. The flat out rejection of doomsday scenarios doesn't just...
I'm not flat out rejecting it. I'm saying it's such a small probability. We came out of the Cold War. The people who feared in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, and we were right. We were right to be fearful during the Cold War.
But we're not in the Cold War anymore. That's my point. I'm saying the people in the 60s had more reason to fear than we have today.
And I'm saying I don't want to get closer back to that sort of scenario.
You're going to die, Gabe. You're going to die.
Okay.
Once you can accept that you're going to die, all your fears will start to fall away.
You're going to die one day, so stop caring so much about free speech. I mean, you say that to anything. That means nothing, Doug.
I already admitted it was a small thing.
Right, but what I'm saying is it just seems like you bring that up for an issue you just... I don't know, I'm just choosing not to... I mean, yeah, if you choose
but I do think this is a trait for people on the left more than people on the right. People on the left, I think, are actually more fearful to die. They're more fearful of these doomsday. And it's partly because, I don't want to, this is not to offend you, but 60% of the Democratic Party are women. And women are more emotional on negative things. They're not more emotional overall. People can look up studies if you don't believe me. Men are more emotional on positive stuff. So men like you, men who are Democrats, tend to be more emotional, more fearful on negative things. And you're displaying this.
Well, Doug, you're saying that there's no emotional reasons for people...
Whenever you ask a question like, are you saying there's no... You're making a categorical statement, so I can disagree with it without even hearing the end of it.
Are you saying that there's no serious, I should say...
No.
Emotional reasons why men on the right, say, are not worried about death? They talk about how men are more likely...
The way you frame questions is so horrible. It's like they're unanswerable. Listen to yourself. Ask it again.
Okay. Do you think there's no serious emotional reasons why people on the right...
Okay, how do you define serious?
Well, you said don't say no, so I'm trying to say that there's no...
But this is why I'm saying why you ask such horrible questions, because what's serious for one person is not serious for another.
Well, I'm asking serious in your opinion.
Okay, so ask it again.
Okay. Would you say that there's no serious emotional reasons, in your opinion, why people on the right aren't worried about death so much?
I still don't even understand that question.
You're saying people on the left are worried too much about death. So I guess the idea would be people on the right are less worried about death, correct?
Yes.
And I'm saying there's no emotional reasons for that on the right? There's no serious emotional reasons for that on the right?
So your question is, are there emotional reasons why people on the right are not scared of death? Is that your question?
Yeah, why men are more likely to die doing stupid things because they're not taking serious safety precautions and stuff like that. That's more likely for men, right?
Yeah.
So I'm saying is, aren't there emotional reasons why stuff like that happens, and that could impact?
Yeah, I said because they're
values on
positive
the right?
reasons. For positive reasons, men are more.
They're emotional reasons.
Yeah,
You feel like you want to go out and have a good time.
right.
so
I just
throw
said
caution
that.
to the wind, throw caution to the wind. Let's have a good time. I'm saying that's a terrible way to run a country.
It's a terrible way to run a country. How? What are you talking
To
about?
have the idea of throwing caution to the wind because I care more about these things
Throwing caution to the wind.
than safety precautions.
So you think Trump is like a skydiver with a 2% chance that the chute won't open?
Something like that, sure.
Okay, I understand you.
All right. I think I've taken up probably enough of your time. So
Okay, see ya.
see you later, Doug.
K-Floop, my answers would be different in World War I, World War II era. Just things are so much different now than back in the 30s and teens. I mean, the way war is fought now is just different. People in World War I and World War II, you had different color uniforms. I mean, you know who the enemy is. Today, we don't even know who the enemy is half the time. Rick Haas says men tend to be better at balancing caution with urgency. Doug avoided so many questions there, including the last one. I honestly didn't even understand the question. But once I understood it, I answered it. The enemy is the white man. Yeah, that's another issue. Thanks for bringing it up. Joe Biden said the other day that the greatest threat to the United States is white supremacy. Really? Where are the fearmongers on the left on that one? Is it white supremacy? In fact, let me see if I can find that clip. Gabe, are you still here? You should be gone. I mean, that's one of the most ridiculous things I've heard a president say. I would love to interview Joe Biden and ask him, Mr. President, can you articulate for me why white supremacy is bad? And then watch him stutter.
We know that American history has not always been a fairy tale. From the start, it's been a constant push and pull for more than 240 years between the best of us, the American ideal that we're all created equal, and the worst of us, the harsh reality that racism has long torn us apart. It's a battle that's never really over. But on the best days, enough of us have the guts and the hearts to stand up for the best in us, to choose love over hate, unity over disunion, progress over retreat, to stand up against the poison of white supremacy, as I did in my inaugural address, to single out as the most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland is white supremacy.
Most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland. White supremacy. The people on the left, do you agree? Do you agree that white supremacy is the most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland. So what Biden's saying here is white supremacy is more dangerous than ISIS. Right? That's fair. He's saying that white supremacy is more dangerous than the North Koreans? If you were to be really generous, and if there's a push, you're not sure if this death was caused by a white supremacist or not, and just give it to the white supremacists. I mean, how many people have died from white supremacy in the United States in the last 10 years? Is it over 1,000? I'd love someone to call in and explain this to me, how white supremacy is the most dangerous threat, terrorist threat. Like in a population of 350 million people, let's say Nazis killed 1,000 people. That's the most dangerous terrorist threat? Really? Can someone come on and tell me, explain this to me? I'm willing to be educated. I love asking questions like this to people on the left. Can white supremacy be good? Can white supremacy be a good thing? Let's see if how courageous people are in the live stream chat.
Hello,
Peter.
again.
I talked to you on the religious channel the other day. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good. What did you want to say?
I just wanted to say that, yes, it's true that any terrorist in the USA is nothing compared to diabetes. Like nobody, but that's not really the problem.
Well, it's this terrorist threat that was terrorists. So
yeah, but it's but the effect of terrorism is not how many people they kill. Like Osama bin Laden, to get combined with ISIS, never caused as many problems than, I don't know, sugary drinks or lack of, like in their wettest dream even. But with white, like the problem is that wealth doesn't trickle down, but oppression does. So even if you put aside your feelings and your gentle heart, I would say that the economics of a country are better if people have, like, it's a meritocracy. I'm not necessarily saying that, like,
you're for meritocracy.
Yes.
Oh, of course, me too. I mean, if you are stupid and lazy, you should make less money than someone who's smart and energetic, has initiative.
You can become president, which is the case sometimes.
People hate hearing that, though, right? They hate hearing that that someone can actually deserve to make more money than others, deserve to be prosperous for working hard. And it's like people will say, oh, it's all luck. Even if it is luck, we should still praise people who get up in the morning, who go out, work hard, work smart. I mean,
we had an experiment to the contrary in the Soviet Union, and it didn't work out. What it showed is that if people are...
They just didn't do it the right way, Peter. If the Soviet Union followed Marxism the correct way, it wasn't... That's the excuse they give, right?
I don't have time for this. I mean, that's not like, it's a really big argument that I live there. It's not because of that. I also study, like, people are selfish. They care about their family, themselves.
Yep.
They want to have reputation and they care about food, sex, pride of the tribe, and like and if you take that away, they turn to alcoholism or I don't know.
This is why capitalism will always work better. A more capitalistic society will always work better than a communist one, is because humans by nature are selfish.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but I think true.
Why is it unfortunate? That's a good thing that we're selfish.
It's really tough because it's true. So all the I didn't want to get into that, but all altruism is eventually a genetic, is either in itself is selfish or it comes from misfiring selfish instinct. I can provide literature for that. That's the unfortunate. Okay, I'm not gonna say unfortunate, but so I'm saying that it wouldn't even be probably possible to be unselfish, because people who had unselfish genes or unselfish cultures, they were an experiment in a genetic lottery, and then their genes are not with us. But that's, who knows?
Do you think altruism is real?
No, that's what I said, that altruism, if you look into it, it's either actually a hidden selfishness or a misfiring of an old selfish.
So it's not real. It's a word that maybe we use to where our selfishness is the most hidden.
Yeah, and when you join ISIS at 17, and you think you're doing a great thing and you're altruistic, but it's never is, because even then you want to get the heaven. Yeah, I don't think it's real. I just didn't want to come out with, but yeah, that's the biological current scientific fact. But what I wanted to say, that wealth doesn't trickle down, but white racism is, or any sort of racism is. What you're missing out, other than that it's not fair, the whole society suffers. Like Germany, completely destroyed in 1945, is living better than America. America is the biggest wealth in the world, and also one of the poorest regions in the world are in America, because of all this. And so again,
but overall, Germany's not doing better than the United States. The whole European Union is kind of sucking right now, right?
It's to itself, but for the people, it's much better than, like, the average American lives worse than the average German. That's like in every possible way.
Oh yeah. You mean like with healthcare and education, that sort of thing?
Healthcare, education, yes, the meritocratic side. So Germany is a social democracy, I would say. It's more right wing than some of the people that you quote from the American left would like, but in reality, it's really so. Even the UK is really social.
But if you're upper middle class, where would you rather live, United States or Germany? United States is the answer.
How can I? No, I don't want to say no.
Well, no, in terms of healthcare.
Yes.
Oh no, man! Peter, I got the best healthcare in the world.
So, if you look at the statistics, the ambulance comes earlier. In
Germany?
Yes. So that was this argument from Jordan Peterson that America is suffering because it's too fast. It's not even close to Germany. Like every statistic, Germany is better.
I'd be shocked. I'm not talking about the average person. I'm talking about me, right? I'm not talking about the average person in the United States. I'm way better in the United States than I think in Germany. Now, I could be wrong about that because I haven't lived in Germany, but
Hungary is the second poorest country in the EU, not even close to Germany. It's only Bulgaria who is poor. My mom is going to chemotherapy right now. She's 71, and she has better treatment in a completely destroyed Hungarian NHS, or what is it called in America now, the health system, than most people in the US.
Yeah,
and
I can believe that.
There's this dream of, if I'm rich, then I get that. No, you don't, because what happens in the UK where I live is that they regularly send me to tests. So if my back hurts, they take my blood and do 17 types of blood checks for everyone for free. And it's true for, like,
How long does that take?
A couple of weeks to
Yeah,
get all
see,
the
that's
blood.
ridiculous.
No, but it's like they have to. No, I walk in now, today. Now I can walk in the walk-in clinic.
Mm-hmm.
They take the blood, and some things come out immediately, but some things they need to. How do you say in English?
How long
Like,
does it take? If you get a blood test, right? Where are you?
I'm in London.
Oh, okay. Are we talking about London or are we talking about a different country?
London is capital.
Okay.
You know,
Okay. Well, I know that, but I thought we were talking about a different country.
I switched.
You switched.
Right.
Okay, but in London, if you go in to get a blood test, how long does it take for you to get the results of the blood test? Let's
depends
just
if
say
you-
an average blood test. An average blood test.
So I get some right there, but some where they have to.
No,
wait
you don't get it right then. It has to go to a lab.
Yes, but it depends on the test. So like there are some that you have to wait because they have to wait until the possible bacilli spread. So
What's the soonest you would get like let's say glucose content? What's the soonest you would get your labs?
I get it the next day. So
The next day. I
Yes.
get mine in 45 minutes.
Right.
That's the difference between the US and universal healthcare system.
Maybe that's okay. Then I had a different idea from my US. So I have a friend in the US, two actually. One is a banker for Citibank, really well off. The other one is a teacher in, I will not say in a uni in some state. It's a small, and they make a lot of money, but they complain about the healthcare. At the same time, they're praising it because what they say is that if she goes to the hospital with her kid, they get hotel compensation, which is $5,000 a night, and it's covered by her expensive insurance. But on the other hand, because of it's not widespread, they get more infections and like it affects her through her kids, that the general health is bad. And it's more like there's a lot more choice in her hand than would be here. So I have to do a lot of things annually because of my age, and well, I don't know. They decide.
How can you have more choice in London than here?
No. I have no choice. I have to go to.
Oh, no choice. Okay.
It's a lot more on her in the US.
Yeah.
What she does then, because here I get messages on an app that I have to appear here, send my blood pressure, and that is actually some good effect.
Yeah, I tell my doctors what to do often, actually.
Is that a joke?
No, I'm not joking.
Oh.
Now, a lot of people most people can't relate to me because they haven't been in my brain for, but I've taught doctors before, pre-med students, and I know a lot of them were idiots. Like this whole concept that doctors are these great people.
No, I
or
know,
smart
okay,
people. Yeah, so I don't buy into that. So I'll give you an example with me telling my doctor. I had an eye problem, I don't know, 3 years ago. And I was on the edge of glaucoma, but I didn't have glaucoma. And so I was going to a glaucoma doctor. But then I was also going to a retina specialist, okay? And I noticed when I went to my glaucoma doctor that he gave me certain tests. And when I went to my retina doctor, I got the exact same test done. And I'm thinking to myself, why am I getting these tests done at, basically the same time by two different doctors? So I told my glaucoma doctor said, you need to come back, I don't know, something like once a month to have your eyes checked. I said, no, because I go to my retina specialist, I get the same test done. He goes, but they're not glaucoma specialists. I know that, but they're doing the same tests as you. And all you're doing for me is these tests. And that doctor can read the test just like you can read the test. So I said, bye-bye.
But you see, this is a problem.
And I saved so much money. See, when the patient can actually think about these things, they save the insurance companies money, they should save themselves money.
So but this is a problem, right? Like you're above average and you have a certain knowledge about certain things. And I know I'm not gonna, I come from a family where all my parents are engineers, and not in the English sense, but like proper master, like not electricians, but chemical engineers.
Right.
And I also have my that's not getting that. So yes, I have stuff like that, but I have blind spots in the things that I know, and I also have a feeling something. So the way I look at doctors is that they are not scientists; they're applied engineers. They're
Yeah.
not. They're
They're
not
glorified plumbers. That's what they are. Unless you're surgeons. Doctors are glorified plumbers.
I mean, you can tell how they act in politics.
Sorry,
but anyway,
doctors who are listening.
they're research doctors, but the general doctor is in a very simplified way is learning 8,000 types of symptoms and says this is that. That's not a science. Anyway, it's that back to the point, because like the problem with racism, like if I'm gonna say something horrible, sorry, other listeners, but if there would be only me and 10 other Hungarians in the US that are different, and we would be really, really oppressed, like every year one of us would be shot, that has no effect on society. It's evil, but it wouldn't matter because you have so many different people and you oppress so many of them, and you don't give them the education and all the stuff that would allow them to to produce or to pay taxes to their potential. You lose out a lot. So even if you don't care about like any gentle heart stuff, it's not a good thing. Like look at Israel. Look
Okay.
at,
So your point is you should care about feelings.
no. No, I mean I really don't like emotions in general. What I mean is like even
Because I agree, we should care about feelings, but just not too
I
much.
think we should be fair as much as we can, but we should look based it on scientific stuff. I don't like this current feeling driven judgment of the world because I'm very liberal, but let's be open minded, but let it not fall out. So, and a lot of these liberal and left sounding ideas are nothing to do with anything other than feelings. So I don't like that.
You
But
sound like a conservative to me.
I don't think there is such a thing, but again, the problem with white racism is not the manifestation that you see that people kill people. That's really bad, yes, but it has such a bigger effect. Like if you go to Brazil and you're white, you can still at this point tell that people who are not white act differently, like you're a bit superior.
Yes, but is that white supremacy or is that colored inferiority?
It's a feeling of inferiority in them,
Right.
but I'm sure that if I would spend a lot more time there, I could get used to it. Like it's not hard to, if everybody tells you that you're superior, then sometimes you believe it. Look at Donald Trump,
Yeah, like I have a cousin that I mentioned earlier who's lived in, I don't know, 7 or 8, 9 different countries in the world. A lot of them, what we would call third world countries, like Jordan, Bangladesh, China, Singapore, where else? Mexico. And he would say that when he walks into a clinic as a white guy, he's 6'2" and white. The people of color clear the rows for him, and he gets front of the line because he has the money, right?
Yeah,
and so it's not like this is an example of not white superiority. This is an example of people of color feeling inferior to people who are white.
But they don't come up with that themselves, right? I don't think that the current treatment of canceling people on Twitter and that nonsense is the way. I think money is the solution.
Yeah.
Make good schools, and also don't do state-sponsored white supremacism, because the problem with Trump is that he legitimizes something stupid. It's not like the problem with white supremacism is not that it's not nice, it's that it's not true. Like if it were true, what can you do? That you can't, deny reality.
Yeah, but people on the left of the United States, I'm not even so sure they care if it's true or not. It's the actions of making someone feel less than or hurting people, which I agree. Like you shouldn't hurt people. So let's say white supremacy is actually true. That doesn't make it wrong or bad. What makes white supremacy bad, what makes racism bad, is the actions done because of it, or that's the motivator. But in itself, there's nothing wrong with white supremacy. It's if the white supremacy causes violence or suffering. And people on the left would say, of course it does.
So are you saying that astrology is actually not bad? Because it's also complete bollocks, but people don't hurt people because of astrology. To me, it's the same thing.
No, I would agree. Okay, Peter, you're going to be shocked, and I think even some theists would be shocked. But there are people, astrology, I think, if you're not paying for anything, if your pocketbook's not suffering, if you're doing it for, let's say you believe it's true, but you spend like 5 minutes a day on it and you kind of laugh and chuckle, or you kind of, whatever. I would say the level of harm there is so minimal, if not zero, that I don't care.
If it's true, I agree. I have a subjective, non-scientifically tested, so could be completely wrong, feeling that it's not true. I think if people, it's just my feeling, that if people grow up accepting complete nonsense, they will be prone to...
Yes, that's a good argument. That once you accept some stupid stuff, you're more prone to accept other stupid stuff.
I can't prove that. It's just a subjective...
But no, I agree with you that that's the danger. But the thing is, we humans are so good at compartmentalizing things that you can be a heart surgeon and still love astrology. That's the weird thing about us humans. So we have demonstrated historically that we can believe the most crazy things and still not have it influence other areas in our life. Like, have you seen those?
Well, yeah, I know I'm wrong, because I can myself point to theist physics, like George Coyne in the Vatican. He's not alive anymore, but he was a brilliant physicist, still believed in God, which contradicts. So yes, I know that it's not always true. I don't know. Okay, then I accept until proven differently. I accept your argument that, but it's still true. White supremacist is not good, and okay, people are allowed to think that, but at least what should be a criteria, that someone who's a president or on a certain level, they shouldn't promote flat Earth, white supremacist, astrology.
But what do you mean by promote?
This is it's a how you say, a minefield.
Like, I'm all for debating flat Earth. Like, especially if someone's willing to put up $1.5 million to a charity of let's say Neil deGrasse Tyson's choice, or a real scientist's choice, not just a communicator, who specializes, I don't know, what area of science would you go to demonstrate the global Earth? There's just so many. But I mean, why wouldn't you debate a flat earther if you can do great things for charities?
This is a very tough question, because I want to be liberal, but on the other hand, I don't exactly know what I mean, but I would somehow disqualify someone, or you know what, I wouldn't vote for someone, that's very different, who actually believes flat Earth, who is a white supremacist, black supremacist, or any nonsense.
You wouldn't what? You wouldn't vote for them?
You didn't vote for them.
Okay.
At first I said I would disqualify them, but I know that...
Well, let me ask you this. Let's say you had a heart problem and you needed a heart surgeon, and the best heart surgeon in the world, like based on statistics, is a flat earther.
The best heart surgeon in Hungary is a shaman. He has he's the best heart surgeon, but he went cuckoo because they are engineers, not scientists.
But would you take a flat earther heart surgeon if they're the best in the world?
I mean, I wouldn't want to know.
You wouldn't want to know?
I wouldn't want to know, because I don't think that's possible, but I have been proven wrong that everything can be worse than I think. Like, when I think that something is not possible, and then comes...
See, and you can ask that type of question to almost anything, like even white supremacy. Let's say the most giving, charitable person you know is a white supremacist.
I know a lot like that. I'm from Hungary.
You know a lot of charitable, nice white supremacists?
No, but who were nice when we were kids, who were nice, who could have been nice people.
But let's say an adult, like who says, "I believe the white race is superior to all other races," but they give like well over 50% of their income to
Separation.
people of color, to charities, because he feels sorry for them, that they're beneath him. They're like they actually improve the lives of people of color, but they're white supremacists. See, these are questions that a lot of people on the left don't like to answer and hear.
I think it changes with time. So I would say that my grandparents' generation had a lot of that, but because of education and I don't know anyone anymore. But I think my grandma's generation, I still knew her. I'm lucky that way. Like I remember,
But
they had a
Peter,
lot of,
there's a lot of people in the U.S. like what I just described.
yeah. I don't know anything about
They
like
won't admit they're white supremacists, but a lot of white liberal women who feel sorry for black people will give them money and say, "I have sinned against you," and affirmative action. The old white men in Harvard are really white supremacists, but they feel sorry for black people, so they push the Asians aside, which doesn't make sense because they're people of color too. These are examples of white supremacists who actually, you could argue, are doing some good in the world. But they're usually Democrats.
Hitler invented environmental protection. You know that he invented the phrase and the whole thing. That doesn't like it doesn't follow. It's a non sequitur. I understand what you're saying. I'm not like I have flaws. People have flaws. I'm wrong about a lot of things. I'm not ever of any of them, right? Because I believe what I believe, and I'm all my wrong beliefs are blind spot to me. Yes, that's true. Probably in America a lot, but like this is. I don't know what the point of this is, because if you talk about like what should the state do, should the state have a head that is a white supremacist and supports even the Proud Boys and whatever? And then the answer is no. Do I say that?
I would, to me, I would say that it's not the labels, it's the actions, and it's so. I don't care if you're a racist or not, if you're behaving well to others. Now, a lot of people on the left, that does not compute to them. They think all racism is bad. If you're a racist, you're bad. If you're a white supremacist, you're bad. And I'm saying I don't care about any of those labels. I just want to see your actions.
Right, and I also I think everybody is bad. Like even if you're not racist, you're bad, and everybody's a little bit like we talk about. I don't. That's we're not living in a Disney world. But what I'm still saying, like especially in this day and age, maybe in 1960 it wasn't possible to find a white man who's not racist to a degree. But it was already possible to find people like who were not white supremacists. Let's make a distinction of actively want to get rid of anybody who's not white and someone who has a bias, an unjustified bias based on racial disgusting, what do you call that? You know what I mean, like looks and I don't know the name. You know what I mean, like who has biases towards people. And but now
Bigot.
in 2023, almost all educated people in the US can know better. Do I mean that those housewives who are racist in their biases but are charitable should be put to shame? No. I mean, let's be real. Like you can't change the world from day 1 to 2, but there's a
Do you
special thing
think?
about
Do you think the United States is more or less racist than the UK?
more. But the UK is especially racist within the EU. It's the most racist Western country.
Why do you think the United States is more racist than the UK?
Because of the distorted election system. Because the election system is the natural selection of politicians, and because of the way you have it set up, that is not proportional representation whatsoever. It will select radical people on the left and on the right, and it will like it's the
There's a lot of moderate politicians in the U.S.
They don't last. I mean, compared to to Sweden or Germany, no. Obama was one that
Do you think Sweden is more or less racist than the United States?
less.
See, I would say more.
No,
You know why I say that?
no, I don't know.
What percentage of Sweden is all one color?
Most people are.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not like they didn't.
Sweden's
say-
like 93% white, right?
Yeah, but America is white because it has a lot of black people because you use slaves and Sweden.
The United States is only 63% white. So
I understand, but that's not because of immigration. That's because of forced immigration.
well, no, but it doesn't matter the reason. My point is that a lot of people on the left will define racism as what whites do to people of color.
No.
So I know, it's crazy.
Racism is not racist.
But-
Racist people are racist, but racism is color free.
But under that definition, I mean, if you have a country that's all white, that by definition, on some people in the left's mind, it has to be like these are racist people. But I don't agree with that. But I would say the more homogenous a country is, like Sweden, like China, the more likely it's going to be racist, because it's more rare to see someone different than you.
I completely disagree. It's not a theoretical question. Sweden is just one of the least racist countries.
Which one?
Sweden is one of the least racist countries in the world. It's a fact. It's they don't have less non-Swedish people because they ban them. It's just for centuries nobody ever wanted.
Okay, so I've never lived in Sweden, but if someone with very dark skin moves to Sweden and they go to the supermarket to buy some groceries, will they be stared at?
No. I know an Iraqi doctor, a girl, very pretty, who lives in Göteborg.
If she's pretty, she's going to be stared at.
For that reason, yes. But no. I mean, I know.
I find that hard to believe, Peter.
But look into it. Like, don't believe me. Look into data.
If a kid is born in a small town in Sweden, and all they see is white people, and then one day they go to the supermarket and they see a black person, I mean, they're going to stare.
They will stare, but boys even stare at like girls, or like just someone from the other school. But the education in Sweden is so strong about this that they learn about.
They learn how to interact with people with darker skin.
Yeah.
That's kind of racist. I mean, if you have to be taught on not to stare, I mean, it's basically admitting you're racist, right?
But that's, of course, that's not what they learn. But they generally learn about, like they have books where they feature all sorts of colored heroes, and they okay, I know more about Germany's education. In Germany, they don't teach the war as like this happened then, and then Kursk and then Stalingrad. They teach about how did this come about, what did it do to us, to other people, and how can we stop it. They don't learn the steps. They learn why is this wrong, what you know. So yes, there are a lot of German people who are racist. There are a lot of Swedish people who are racist, but a lot less than in America. Because, for example, like, okay, you have a better chance of getting a job anywhere in Sweden if you come from not Sweden than you have in certain jobs in America. In the UK, for example, which is more racist than Sweden, we have a prime minister who is not English. In like he comes from, like, he's English. He's very English in the sense that he's one of the elite, but he's I forgot if he's from India or Rishi Sunak, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Like, I got to run because I really have to use the restroom. But I'm very skeptical in a very homogenous society that racism is less.
I will read into it more. I have an impression, but I'm not prepared enough. So I take back my very confident answers, but I will read. specifically about Sweden because now I'm interested.
Well, just in general, I would make that claim that I would say China is probably one of the most racist countries in the world.
Definitely, but it's
Japan, and I would even say Sweden, Norway, Denmark.
But then you make that distinction. Yes, Japan is. China is not one nation. It's the Han nation that's very like that's looking. China.
I would say United States is one of the least racist countries in the world.
In the world, but within the Western world, it's one of the most.
No.
So in the old
look at the well, maybe I would say sometimes we got to use the word bigoted rather than racist. But like, look at the French. I hear like, are the French more or less bigoted than the Americans?
In their beliefs, they think they are. Like they don't have this pride of the American of the land of the free and everybody's welcome. But in their actions, in their laws, in their everyday life, less. It's more accepted in the culture for a longer time, not to be. But
yeah, we're talking about bigotry here, not racism. But if someone from France were to come to the United States, they, I think, would be treated better than if an American goes to France.
I don't know. I'm not. I lived in France as well, but I don't. Yeah, again, I'm not well prepared enough for this. So you might be right.
Yeah. Well, we're just spitballing here, like even like it all depends on how you define racism. How do you measure it? I mean, like some people say you measure racism based on the inequalities of the people, but even that I don't buy, because how do you account for cultural differences? I mean, it's a mess.
And do you think America is New York, or is it more like Virginia, or is it, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I would. Well, they say when it comes to voting, the average is Ohio type. So United States is such a huge country that it should be really dozens of countries because of how different it is.
So this was a trap. In the Forbes 30 under 30 in the UK, like most influential under 30-year-olds, one of them is my friend. Is a black girl from Virginia, and she's under 30, but in class she was called the N-word, which is never happening in New York, would never happen in the UK. Is that America? I don't think so. Even she doesn't think so. But she came to the UK, and now she's one of the top 30 most influential.
Yeah, but hey, Peter, in the United States, someone who has been raised with a mother and father who is a person of color knows who they are and has a good identity. Being called the N-word doesn't make a dent.
She is very successful here.
Ask her. I bet you if you ask her, did it bother you when someone called you the N-word? I'll be willing to place money. How old was she when she was in college?
I don't know what elementary school is. Like she was in elementary.
Oh, she was in elementary school is different because it's still a child. But people who know who they are and who have a loving mother and father in let's say an African American home, they can be called the N-word and won't faze them.
That's like she's very happy person. She's very together, and she's not this. They're this type of person who always relies on their scars, and she's not that. She's very successful, and she's happy and balanced.
Yeah.
But when she told me that, she didn't say like, it doesn't matter. I didn't ask her.
This is why I preach personal responsibility on this, because someone can intend offense by calling an African American the N-word, but if they are like, let's say, your friend who chooses not to take offense, chooses to brush it off, chooses to ignore it or whatever, not looking for racism, in other words, they will become successful. They won't pity and wallow in this.
Yes, but she's especially talented. She's like yourself. You're doing that all the time. Sorry, that's generalization. But you're a way above average intelligent. You went to good schools, and you can't judge the system from your or her perspective. She's very talented.
It's not about an intellect with what I'm saying.
You would make it on ice, as we would say in Hungarian. You know what? I don't know you that well, but I assume that because of your intelligence, okay, not you in general. Einstein would have made it, and did make it in Poland and in Germany, being oppressed. But that's not like you shouldn't measure on the Gauss, that mathematical thing.
I know what you're saying, and I've thought about this a lot too. Is why am I different than a lot of people? Because people have called me very terrible things, because I'm an atheist, number one. But like people can call me a racist, a homophobe, a bigot. It doesn't. I'm telling the truth. It makes not a dent. I mean, I totally do not care.
Because can I venture a guess?
Yeah.
Because you're more clever than the average, and in general, you don't care about what people say because most people are really stupid. So it's not because of what they like in general.
Yeah, well, because I know often it's just feelings and emotions based. Because I have literally never. I was raised pacifist. I've never punched a person. I've never killed a person. There's nothing that I've never ever treated someone of a different race badly. Like
that's your remote twin, who is not exactly your twin, but like the 2-egg twin, who's your brother, but not exactly. Does he deserve the same things that you do relative to his performance? Like what I mean is, does everybody deserve fair treatment, or are we going for like a Brazil type of society that if you're the most successful football player in the world, then you're richer than anyone in the world? If not, then you're screwed. Do you want to have a society where you measure it by you or Pele or?
Yeah, I lean that way. I lean towards we should achievement should be the measurement. So if you achieve more, you should be given more.
1% talent makes it almost everywhere. Like one of the biggest poets in Hungary was killed because he was Jewish. He was killed, and they found the poems in the mass grave that he wrote, and they are the best Hungarian poems ever. Nothing stopped him, but he's not the good measurement of a country. Like then you could say, like, you know what? Why do the Jews complain? Like he could still write the best poems ever in Hungarian literature. Like why do you? But he's special. Like what I'm saying is like you should measure maybe like the whole society and. Anyway.
Well, yeah. People are different. People have different skills, talents, IQ levels. But my main point was that when you're raised by people who love you, it lowers the impact of words causing you harm. I mean, people who are the most offended by words tend to be people who don't know who they are, who have not been raised in a good, solid home. But I will admit that I was very successful at a very early age, so I had this confidence. And a lot of people, young people especially, they don't know what they're good at even. They don't know what they're bad at even. They have no guidance. It's sad. But anyhow, thanks for coming on, Peter. I really got to use the restroom. Take care. Yeah, I've had to go to the bathroom for the last hour. I'm a camel. Is that in reverse? Travel more, Doug, with purpose. Floyd, you're on tax cuts? The problem with the Republican tax cuts is it increased the national debt. Yeah. Floyd, do you realize that we could just tax the wealthy 99% and we'd still have a deficit? Did you know that, Floyd? Crunch the numbers. You'll find out. You're right, but things are so bad, the rightness that you have is almost irrelevant.